Chapter 291, Strength and Weakness. The next day, Akira slept through the morning and passed the afternoon due to fatigue. After he woke up, he went to get something to eat and went to take a bath, inside the base's great bath. He entrusted his body to the warm water, which sapped away his exhaustion. Normally, he would enjoy such a warm bath without any worries. However, this time he still seemed rather tense. His sighs were not from the bath but from exasperation. Seeing that, Alpha, who was also in the bath with him, could not help but ask, "Akira, are you all right? Do you need more sleep?" "No. It's true that I'm still tired, but that's not it." He no longer had a bounty on his head, his monster designation got removed and Chloe was dead. Even so, Akira still was not content with this outcome. It continued to weigh down on his spirit. Alpha smiled and tried to cheer him up. "In that case, let's take the whole day to recuperate. You worked hard yesterday. It can't be helped if you still feel tired after going through all of that, yeah." Akira gave a deep nod and tried to brush off that feeling. However, he was not able to do so and slowly returned to his previous state. That was when a call from Shizuka suddenly reached him. Akira picked up the call via telepathy with Alpha. "Akira, it's me. It seems that you've gone through quite a lot recently, but I'm glad that you're fine. Thank you very much and sorry for making you worry, Shizuka-san. You really did make me worry, good grief. Can you imagine how shocked I was when I found out that one of my shop regulars became a bounty target?" Shizuka was speaking in a joking manner, which Akira then tried to lightly laugh off. At the very least, he was able to make a chuckle, albeit an awkward one. About that, because of this, I will soon go purchase ammo and medicine from Shizuka-san's shop, so please let this slide. Good grief, it can't be helped then. They then continued to chat about how they were doing lately in a buoyant mood. The flow of the conversation naturally cheered Akira up. Right around the point where he sounded a little springier, Shizuka's tone changed to a scolding one. "Akira, this might be nothing but my imagination, so just ignore it if you think that it's just my misunderstanding." Akira was taken aback by this sudden change but gave a firm reply. Shizuka continued slowly and clearly. "I'm sure you've gone through a lot lately and I'm sure you'll have to face a lot of things in the future. If it's something that you are going to do for your own sake, please do so without holding back. You've simply become someone with the capability to do that." Akira was expecting Shizuka to be scolding him because of what had happened. Thus, he was surprised by those unexpected words. Shizuka then continued by putting more emphasis on her words. "But, if by any chance you do it for our sake, you should stop. Please don't make us the reason for you to use force." Akira had gone through multiple rampages in the past. Most of the time, it was because of revenge or self-defense. He reacted extremely violently when triggered. He was like a landmine, completely docile in other circumstances. However, he was slowly changing. Previously, he only recognized those around him as either hostile or not hostile. Now, he started to recognize others as friends and allies. It was indeed a good thing, but at the same time, it also gave Akira more trigger points. If it was for the sake of self-defense, Akira would stop once he was able to protect himself from the enemies. However, if it was for the sake of revenge, the aim was to kill, not to protect. To annihilate his enemies. In such a scenario, it was possible for Akira to never stop. His retribution could grow larger due to hatred, fear, or regret. He might even start to hunt anyone with the slightest relation to his target down to the very last person. There was no doubt that Akira would meet his end eventually if he went down this path. However, how many people would he drag down to hell before that happened? The world was not naive enough to let him go on a rampage forever. Such destruction would be massive, and it would be his own undoing. With that worry in mind, Shizuka conveyed her warning clearly to him. She firmly wanted to prevent Akira from going down this path. The first and foremost way to prevent him from doing so was to draw the line of avenging those important to him. It's just something I think we all share the same sentiments on. It's not like I'm telling you to not care about us. We are happy that you think of us. But I want you to stay calm, think things through, and consult with others more. Akira, are you listening?" When Shizuka called him, Akira snapped back to reality. He gave a bitter smile and replied with his usual tone. Yeah, I'm listening. I'm sorry for not consulting with you. But, Shizuka-san, as expected, it's not an easy subject for me. Like, I don't think I could have done what you suggested, Shizuka-san. I had become a bounty target. Wouldn't it be difficult to ask for advice at that point? You have a point. I don't know what to say if you put it like that. Right? As I thought, that's why I did that. Akira then continued talking casually with Shizuka. As they conversed, he could feel the weight in his heart slowly being lifted. The source of that feeling was his inability to process the feeling of helplessness. Although it all started when Chloe threatened him, the two main reasons why he did not back down were because Chloe looked down on him and that she threatened those he had identified as his friends. Akira then tried to solve both issues with his own power. He decided to do so because he thought he had the power to accomplish it. He had to admit there was a level of pride and ignorance mixed in this decision of his. However, in the end, Akira basically failed to accomplish both. Although it had come to an end, Alice could have easily killed him and left the other side alive. And Chloe was killed by Alice, which was more than likely out of Alice's whim. In the end, his actions and wishes did not have anything to do with the outcome. Akira had already thought that he was no longer his old self, that he had grown stronger. To prove that to himself and to others, he used violence fueled by his strong emotions. However, his opponent did not even see him as someone worthy of being considered an enemy. Even the target of his violence got taken before he could swing his fist. This gave Akira the feeling of helplessness. Even so, the fist that he had raised was still up. In the worst-case scenario, he might go and look for another reason to bring that hammer down. Akira then realized something. After listening to Shizuka, he was about to distort his originally pure intentions. The fist that he had raised was originally done so to protect his friends. Now, he had almost ended up using his friends as an excuse to use his raised fist. Now that he had realized it, stopping himself was easy. It also helped him accept the fact that he was indeed still weak. To put it in another way, it gave Akira the strength to admit that he was still weak. Not so well, with that, I ended up using quite a lot of my ammunition. I have to resupply soon, so I'm sorry, but is it okay if I place my order now? Sure, but as expected, I can't get you any Annihilator warheads. So please don't expect me to have those. I know. Now that I think about it, I wonder how did Katsuragi get those? There are these kinds of amazing merchants out there, huh? I have to work hard to make sure my regulars don't run off to them. Don't worry about it. I will be visiting your shop sometime soon, so I'll be in your care. All right, I'll be looking forward to it. See you. Shizuka then closed the call. Akira stretched out his body and smiled. It was as if he had accomplished a huge task. He was finally able to put a lid on the previous incident. All right then, I guess I should get out soon. But Alpha sighed and looked exasperatedly at him. What? You always listen to everything Shizuka has to say. In all honesty, after watching how you're so obedient to her every word, I would prefer it if you did the same to me as well, you know. Akira looked away from Alpha's gaze and laughed awkwardly. Although no one knew the full details of what had happened, in the end, Akira won, and his bounty was taken down. He was also no longer recognized as a monster by the city. For Cheryl's gang, that was a huge win. They were elated that they had won a battle where they were greatly outnumbered and were in a tight spot. At the same time, they were also greatly saddened by the death of their comrades, who had lost their lives in that battle. The whole gang was flooded with emotion, but after a single night, they calmed down to some extent. However, for Cheryl, this was not the end. She was swamped with work as the boss of the gang. She was so busy that she could not head straight to the bath immediately after she heard that Akira went in after he woke up. When she finally found an opening to wedge in some free time for herself, she immediately went to the bath. However, when she entered the changing room, Akira was already in the middle of wearing his clothes. Akira, you're already done. I did take my time though. I'm pretty sure I'll pass out if I spend more time inside the bath. I see. Akira was not lying. He did spend quite a long time inside as he took his time chatting with Shizuka. However, that did not change the fact that Cheryl had missed her chance to get in the bath together with him. That regret was obvious from her expression. Now that Akira was no longer recognized as a monster, he no longer had any reason to be staying in her base. The more she thought about it, the more awful she felt. That the next opportunity was so far away, making her regret missing this opportunity even more. Once Akira finished putting on his clothes and had left the room, Cheryl simply silently followed behind him. "HM? Cheryl, aren't you going to take a bath? I wanted to get in with you, but since you've done, I'll take one later." "I see." They had gone together multiple times before. It was definitely bold of her to do so, and she almost said something bold in response to his question. That every chance to get into the bath together with you is a precious occasion. However, she did not end up saying it. She just sighed as per usual at how nonchalant he was. "Akira, do you like older girls?" "It's not like I have any particular preference, but..." "That was out of the blue. Where did that come from?" "Nothing, it's just that I saw you with Elena-san, Sarah-san and Carol-san. I just thought that you have quite a lot of mature women as your close friends." "Isn't that simply because there are a lot of adults among hunters, yeah? That must be it, yeah." Even if she acted a bit jealous, as she had expected, Akira's reaction was as dry as ever. Cheryl could not help but sigh again. "Akira, I just remembered. Shirjima said he wants to meet you face to face. What do you plan to do?" Akira tilted his head. It seemed like he had completely forgotten who Shirjima was. Thus, Cheryl had to remind him that he was the boss of a gang. Thanks to that, it refreshed his memory. That guy, huh? If it's about the gang, tell him to discuss that with you." "About that, he said that it has nothing to do with gang business. When I asked him what he wanted to talk about, he said that he can't tell anyone else other than you. So, I have him waiting in the guest room. Should I just send him off?" At one point in the past, Cheryl was just the boss of a small gang in the slums. Meanwhile, Shirjima was the boss of a medium-sized gang. At that time, Cheryl was in a lower position in terms of power. However, that power hierarchy had been completely overturned. Furthermore, with Akira emerging victorious from the recent battle, it only served to widen the power gap between the two gangs. Even so, the two gangs have gotten along for a long time. Therefore, Cheryl was not willing to shoo Shirjima away or used force to make him state his business with Akira. Furthermore, since he mentioned it had something to do with Akira, she had to act with more precaution. Cheryl told him to wait in the guest room, and that there was no guarantee that Akira would meet him. "Well, if he's already here, might as well meet him before I leave." Akira was in a good mood after talking with Shizuka. Therefore, he just simply thought that it would not hurt to see Shirjima for a bit. When Alicia told Shirjima, who was waiting in the guest room, that Akira would meet him soon, Shirjima inadvertently frowned. "And he's seriously going to meet me? You could just say that someone like me isn't worth your time, you know? Why the heck are you earnestly coming to meet me?" Although he was the one who asked to see Akira, he was hoping to get rejected. The reason why he chose to come here today was because he thought there was a good chance Akira would refuse to meet him. However, despite his wishes, not too long after, Akira came into the room together with Cheryl. To add salt to the wound, Akira was planning to head back home as soon as Shijima's business with him was done. In other words, Akira was carrying all his equipment. With a 50 billion bounty target standing fully armed and ready to fight any time in front of him, as expected, Shirjima tensed up. Thinking that it was counter-effective to be overly cautious and scared, he tried his best to give off the same aura as back when Akira was just a small, unknown hunter and he was a boss of a medium-sized slum gang. Akira sat face to face with Shirjima. "So, what is it? If it's possible, I want to be covert about this." Shirjima said so and glanced at Cheryl. However, Cheryl did not show any reaction to his glance. "Tell me why you are here first. If it's about gang business, I will leave it to Cheryl and go back home. But it's about the 3rd Ward branch of the Lion Steel Company. Are you okay with her listening?" As Shirjima expected, Cheryl's face turned dire. This was why he had refused to explain why he was there to her beforehand. In the worst-case scenario, he might get killed the moment he tried to explain. Akira thought for a bit before turning to Cheryl. "It's up to you, I don't mind either way, but just to be safe, I will take my leave." If it's something that is okay for me to hear, please tell me what it is later. All right. Cheryl gave a light bow and exited the room. Shirjima saw Cheryl off with conflicted eyes. Being left alone with Akira meant that he might be able to slowly manipulate Akira with words. However, at the same time, it also meant that there would be no one to stop Akira if he went on a rampage. To help calm himself down, Shirjima forced himself to see this from a positive point of view. So, what is it? Akira threw the same question as before. Shirjima made his resolve before opening his mouth. The Lion Steel Company Eastern District 3rd Ward Branch wishes to make peace with you. So, I'm here today as a negotiator sent from their side. Akira raised his eyebrows and tilted his head. He did not expect that at all. However, Shirjima could not help but see that as him being irritated. From Shijima's point of view, it was only natural because he had mentioned Lion Steel 3rd Ward Branch in front of Akira. He tried his best to put a lid on his welling anxiety. The conflict between Akira and Lion Steel had met its end. However, to be more precise, it was forced to end in peace due to the intervention from the main branch. At the moment, although they were not fighting against each other, those from the 3rd branch still saw Akira as hostile. The manager of the 3rd Ward Branch, Beltram, thought that there was no need to prolong this conflict any further. At the very least, as long as there was no order from the main branch to continue the fight, Beltram had no wish to continue the 3rd branch's conflict with Akira. However, it would be naive to assume that Akira also had the same opinion. From the point of view of common sense in the Eastern District, picking a fight against the Lawrence family was simply unthinkable. Although they were certain that Akira would not do something as pointless as attacking the main branch, they feared he would have no problem causing a battle of the same size as before if it was against a branch. Furthermore, Akira was scheduled to get frontline equipment from Sakashita Heavy Industries sometime soon. He might avoid engagements at the moment, but there was a good chance that he would try to attack the Lion Steel branch once he got his powerful equipment. Naturally, if it ever came to that, unlike last time, Beltram would use the full might of the 3rd branch to fight back. Compared to the incident with Chloe, it would be a force that was incomparable in size, which would have no problems eradicating Akira. However, considering the expenses needed to create, deploy, and manage such a force, Beltram wanted to avoid this even if it meant that he had to be the one who directly worked on it. To do that, the 3rd Ward Branch needed to negotiate a peace treaty with Akira. However, the 3rd Ward Branch still needed to keep its prestige and still act as a large company. Thus, they could not simply declare that they had backed off because of a hunter. If they did that, other companies would look down on them and it might become a trigger for more conflicts. Thus, considering both ends, the money and manpower needed to fight against Akira and to prevent other hostile companies from acting up, they needed to make it look as if Akira was the one who sued for peace. Naturally, Beltram knew that this was an extremely difficult feat to pull off. If Akira was someone who would listen to others' demands without trying to fight back, he would not have fought against Chloe. However, even so, they still could not afford to continue this fight. They had to negotiate for peace. Thus, Lion Steel used its resources to look for someone who could act in their stead. They came up with one person. Someone who started with a hostile relationship with Akira, and just like Chloe, went as far as to threaten Akira's friends, but somehow managed to find peace with Akira by paying a huge sum to him. It was extremely easy for Lion Steel to scare Shirjima into doing their bidding. Shirjima continued the difficult negotiation, which placed his own life in danger. If he was able to handle things peacefully, Lion Steel would owe him a favor. However, if he failed, only death awaited him. The only difference would be whether it would be Akira killing him now or Lion Steel killing him later. With that in mind, Shirjima desperately continued to negotiate. The 3rd Ward Branch wants to make peace with you, but they want you to pay a small sum to them. Wait, calm down, listen to everything I have to say first, okay? Akira's expression only showed bewilderment and doubt. However, Shirjima could not help but perceive his expressions as him being on the verge of exploding. Naturally, that would be horrendous considering Akira had the firepower to literally blow up the whole slums. Therefore, Shirjima was desperately trying to convince Akira while preventing him from exploding. So then, about the money, they asked for 300 orum. On top of the unexpected subject, Shirjima worded out an unexpected number. As expected, it only got Akira to feel even more confused and unsure of how to react. 300? Like 300 million orum? Or 300 billion? No, it is just 300 orum. After Shirjima repeated, he put 3 100 orum coins on top of the table as if to establish what he said further. This much. As Akira's expression slowly turned into pure bewilderment, Shirjima thought that he was close to succeeding and made the push to seal the deal. I know that you don't like being looked down on, so this negotiation is basically the opposite of that. Shirjima then said with a livelier expression as if to entice Akira. I know people say there is nothing more expensive than free stuff, but that is a huge lie. As expected, free stuff is cheaper than having to pay. You see, there is something cheaper than free. There are things that would lose their original value by putting a cheap price tag on them, you know. People's actions do not always coincide with the rule of law. Some actions were not to be committed, not because it was written in a book. Rather, it was common sense not to do so. When a law gets enacted with a fine in place, it is declaring a price tag for said offenses. People's perception of such offenses might shift from common sense not to commit to monetary acceptance. They could do so as long as they could pay the fine. As such, more of such offenses might take place, especially if the fine was cheap. Even after all you've done against the Lion Steel Company, you can get out scot-free only by paying 300 orum. Don't you think it's an excellent offer to mock them? You will also be able to have a peace treaty with them, you know? Isn't it just perfect? Shirjima believed that no one was insane enough to refuse such an offer. Even though he offered with a lively attitude, he was trying his best to hide his desperation. Shirjima knew his words were nothing but cheap trickery. If Akira were to refuse, he had no other way he could think of to convince him. But still. Seeing Akira mumble, Shijima's voice started to tremble. Is there something that you don't like? Not really. It's just, let's leave me aside for now. Do you think they will be okay with me mocking them like this? Don't they need to convince their men for this deal? I see about that. Don't worry. In the end, this offer is just for the company to keep up appearances. If you accept, they can make a public statement, stating that you paid a sum of money to form a peace deal. They will definitely not state the exact amount of money that you paid. Those who don't know the details would naturally assume that you have paid a huge sum. But is that so? Is that how things work? Yeah, it is as simple as that. But well, as expected, they wouldn't want you to go around leaking the amount you've paid. I'm sure they'll bring that up later, to keep it a secret. But that would be a different negotiation at a different time. The only thing that they asked me to do is this. So, what do you think? Akira hummed for a bit before finally nodding. All right, should I just transfer the money? Because of what had happened, it has become extremely difficult for me to carry around this small of an amount. I did live out in the wasteland for quite some time after all. Wait, in the first place, where should I transfer the money to? Shirjima immediately pointed at the 300 orum on top of the table and offered it to Akira. He wanted to strike before Akira could change his mind. I'll give this to you so you can pay it right here, right now. Akira's expression immediately turned serious as he shook his head. No, if I'm going to pay, I will do it properly. Shirjima sighed deep inside his heart after watching Akira's problematic side come up. However, to not sour his mood, Shirjima decided to let Akira do as he pleased. He took out his information terminal and told Akira where to transfer the money. Transfer it to this address. You don't mind if it's my account, right? Since I'm the negotiator from their side this time. It's fine. Akira took out his own information terminal and completed the transfer. Once he received notification that the transfer went through, a peace treaty between Akira and Lion Steel 3rd Ward Branch was formed. Shirjima was tottering as he was leaving Cheryl's base. Fatigue immediately struck him in one go after he had concluded the deal with Akira. The whole time, he felt like he was walking through a minefield. The feeling of elation from being able to get out alive supported his shaking legs as he returned back home. For a negotiator who had successfully concluded his deal with a highly dangerous opponent, Shurjima was extremely gloomy. He knew he had gotten lucky, that he was able to handle it just fine this time. However, if there was a second time, there would be a third, fourth, and so on. Thus, Shurjima had no confidence that he would live if he was asked to do something like this again. For now, he decided to not think about it as he heaved a huge sigh and waded through a portion of the slums which had been turned into a mountain of rubble. After Shurjima left, Akira gave Cheryl a brief explanation before he left the base to head back home. He informed Cheryl that he had made a peace deal with the 3rd Ward branch, but did not share that he had to pay 300 Aurum to do so. Hearing that, Cheryl sighed in relief. Once Akira arrived back home, he put his equipment down and stretched his body. I'm finally back. The feeling of finally being home hit him. He was finally able to relieve the tension he felt, which latched onto him during the days when he was aiming to kill Chloe. The feeling of freedom was overwhelming. Even Alpha was smiling happily as she said, "It is indeed great. Since you have made peace with Lionsteel, there's no need to worry about ambushes and you can take a good rest. But still, it was rare for you to be willing to make a compromise like that. It was quite unexpected of you." During his negotiation with Shurjima, Akira was asked not to say anything about the amount to outsiders. He easily agreed to this, which took Alpha by surprise. Akira simply gave a soft smile and explained, "Well, I don't want any more trouble than this. It might be weird for me to say this after going through everything, but it would be really troublesome to have Lionsteel staring at my back all the time. So, I am least willing to make that much of a compromise." Everything he said were all his honest feelings. However, it was also true that such a conclusion was reached only because of his conversation with Shizuka beforehand. Had he not lowered his fist before he negotiated with Shurjima, Akira might have used this as a reason to bring it down. On top of that, the 300 Aurum price tag played a small role in changing his heart. That 300 Aurum was a small amount for him right now. At the same time, it was the same amount he first received after he officially became a hunter. On one hand, it was a small amount of money, but on another, it was the first amount he had earned through risking his life. The mere fact he was able to form a peace treaty with a large company like Lionsteel filled him with mixed emotions. A conflicted feeling of accomplishment. I see. Either way, being able to avoid any unnecessary conflict is a good thing. We can now just wait patiently until your frontline equipment from Sakashita Heavy Industry arrives. You're right. Right at that time, a notice from the Hunter office reached his information terminal. When Akira read through the content, he could not help but knit his eyebrows. Bounty target notice. It says that it's a notice for a new bounty target? Akira told himself that it should not have anything to do with him as he slowly read through the notice. The new bounty target was not Akira. However, he was slightly surprised to see the name written being someone he knew. Yesterday, around the time when the city officers, including Yanabe, were receiving an explanation from the Lionsteel Company about what had happened, Yanagisawa was not in the city. He was staying inside a particular room in the Saranthal building back in Mihazono Ruin. If you're done with your investigation, it would be great if you can deliver my agreed-upon payment already. Very well, as I have promised, here is your reward. Seeing Olivia declare with a nod, Yanagisawa was smiling, satisfied. Yanagisawa was helping Olivia in her investigation. Everything from slowing down the Kagamayama city management's reaction to allowing Akira to stay near the city. Naturally, the huge battle that took place was also part of the investigation as well. And as payment, Yanagisawa was to be given a certain piece of information. Yanagisawa, who was smiling happily up until now, suddenly turned solemn. Now then, I want to get information about the people who are working together with those AIs. That would be rejected. Yanagisawa tensed up, his face turned stern. What do you mean? That's not what you had promised. Yanagisawa's voice was filled with intimidation, enough to freeze even veteran hunters in the vicinity. Even so, Olivia was not bothered by it at all. I agreed to share information with you, but I've never said that I will share everything we know. The quality and the amount of information that we're willing to share depends on how well you did your part, but I'm pretty sure I worked pretty hard back there. That does not concern us. Our company is willing to adapt our decision depending on the current situation. Since we were forced to share national military-grade information with someone outside the company, that alone took away most of your achievements. Yanagisawa had no other choice but to withdraw after Olivia stated such a thing to him. He then carefully chose his words to ask her. Then, how about you tell me what I am allowed to ask considering my contribution to your investigation? That will also be rejected. The method that we use to decide the value of information is also a form of information. Moreover, not giving you the information that you're looking for can also be interpreted as giving more information than what you're asking for. That would mean paying more than what you deserve. Yanagisawa scratched his head. He understood Olivia's argument. If he kept asking questions regarding what information he could get, Olivia might treat it as a part of his payment, which would inevitably cause him to spend his achievements. Yanagisawa understood that doing this might lead him to end this rare opportunity without being able to get any valuable information. Then just tell me if those AIs have people working with them around here. No, right now, in the deeper part of Kuzusuhar ruin. No, do those AIs have someone working under them who is strong enough to go to the deeper section of Kuzusuhar ruin? Not on the route made by Kagemayama City. No, scratch that, can you recognize those people? Wait, no, can you find any individual with over 90% chance? Yes. Yanagisawa's expression grew even sterner. So there are, huh? And they must be pretty powerful. Did those AIs strike some kind of deal with high-ranking hunters who are coming to Kagemayama City lately? But hunters are not allowed to go too deep into Kuzusuhara ruin. We made use of it being an area under Tsubaki as an excuse. Did they break through all the restrictions we have set up? Can you tell me their name? No. Yanagisawa could not hide his shock. So, she won't even tell me their name, huh? Does that mean this person is very important to the Old World Lion Steel Company? Is it their patron? Wait, it might be someone from the current Lion Steel Company. Since Olivia's negotiation with Representative Alice went well, they might have made information regarding that person a secret? No, that can't be. If it is connected to the current Lion Steel Company, the number of people working with those AIs would increase significantly. Telling me the names of their important employees would be extremely valuable information. Is that why she refused? Yanagisawa did not know how many more questions he could ask. With that in mind, he carefully chose his next question. In that case, give me the current picture of just one person that satisfies my conditions. You can zoom out as much as you want with that person in the middle. Well, do so till you can show that picture to me. If Olivia refused, then Yanagisawa must have made a fatal mistake in his estimation. However, even if he exhausted all his achievements with this one request, it would give him enough information to readjust his next moves. Yanagisawa concluded as he waited for Olivia's reply. Certainly. Olivia then showed a 3D image in front of Yanagisawa, but the person in that image was not someone that Yanagisawa expected at all. This person? She's from Katsuya's? It was the picture of someone who was in Katsuya's faction, Eri, taking an aim at Akira. There were few from Katsuya's faction who agreed to join Chloe's side. They acquired powerful equipment thanks to the funds provided by Chloe. However, they were rallied under Eri due to their local network and not the Lion Steel Company's third ward branch. Due to their strong desire to kill Akira, just like Eri, it was easy for her to take over the local network and command them. After Eri was done gathering allies, she quickly left Kagemayama City using the opening created when Akira and the others started fighting under the thick jamming smoke. Inside Eri's enhanced vision, Alias pouted her lips as she stated, "I'm pretty sure that our original agreement was not only for you to gather manpower, but also to provide him with support." Absolutely not. There's no reason for me to help the person who killed Katsuya. At least I'm holding myself back from attacking him. According to her contract with Eri, Alias even had the permission to interfere with her self-identity. Even so, Eri could still refuse Alias' request due to her deep-seated hatred. Alias sighed. "It can't be helped then, but you should do the rest properly as per our contract." "I know." Eri had not been turned into Alias' remote terminal even when the latter had the ability to alter Eri's self-perceived identity. Alias knew this had something to do with Eri's deep-seated hatred. Therefore, Alias had to be careful when dealing with matters related to it. For now, since she could not do much about it, she decided to just let it slide. After Shiro returned to his hideout, he quickly proceeded to analyze the data that he gathered in the slums. Not only did the data confirm Tsubaki's and Olivia's presence, but it also held the key to defeat those giants back in the slums. He hurriedly checked the data to see if he could extract any other important information from it. However, without the help from an old-world AI like Alpha, and without access to Sakashita Heavy Industries facilities, he needed more time to analyze it. Even so, he was able to process the data at a relatively good pace. In the middle of processing, he received information about a new bounty target. Lion Steel has put up a bounty for someone again, huh? It's for a group of hunters with someone by the name of Eri leading that group, huh? The reason for this bounty was because the group had abandoned their contract with the Lion Steel Company. Seeing that, Shiro frowned and mumbled. Contract? I bet it's about attacking Akira, right? So, those who abandon their accepted request will get a bounty on their head, huh? But I'm pretty sure the Third Ward Branch has already made peace with Akira though. It was indeed as Shiro had thought. The Third Ward Branch did not put up that bounty due to their own will. It was something that Yanagisawa had requested. There was a time lag between when the bounty was placed and when Yanagisawa discovered Eri from Olivia. Yanagisawa did not want to make any unnecessary waves that might cause those from Anti-Rebuild to notice him. That was why he waited for some time before putting up the bounty. Well, I bet the bounty was put up because of something different. In reality, Shiro's guess was spot on. Nonetheless, he simply pushed matters related to this bounty aside and continued analyzing the data. Not too long after that, once he was almost done decrypting the data, he suddenly froze in shock. He was able to clearly see an image of the girl next to Tsubaki and Olivia. Haruka? Shiro knew Haruka. Haruka? But, are you there? What's going on? Shiro was greatly shaken and confused. The girl in that picture was a friend that he wanted to save. He wanted to save her so much that he was willing to betray Sakashita Heavy Industry. Never would he have imagined her to be somewhere so close. The slums had turned into ruins after the battle. However, renovation and rebuilding were already starting. The heavy construction machines that Inabe sent were working hard to remove the rubble. Among one of the mountains of rubble, no human nor machine was nearby. It looked completely ordinary, like those around it, until it suddenly moved. An arm broke out of the rubble, followed by a human scream. It was Levin. A moment later, Babalod also emerged. Both were buried under the rubble in the middle of the battle and just woke up after being knocked unconscious. Thanks to the rubble on top of them, they were spared from the energy wave released by the giants. Babalod lightly scanned the surroundings and sighed. I don't know what's the situation, but at least we are still alive. We're alive. We're alive? We're alive. We survived. Levin shouted in delight. His happy voice echoed through the slums. At the very least, until he realized that his debt had just multiplied after his equipment got completely ruined. Chapter 292, A Summon from Kobayashi. After Akira's conflict with the Lion Steel Company had come to an end, he was no longer recognized as a monster by Kagamayama City. His bounty was also taken down. He finally returned back to the situation where he could wait in peace until his new equipment from Sakashita Heavy Industry arrived. That was when he received a message from Kobayashi to meet him in a particular restaurant on the first floor of the Kagama building. When Akira arrived, he could see Kobayashi wearing casual clothes sitting at a table. He was waving at him with a wide grin. It seemed like Kobayashi had already ordered food before he had arrived. Man, that was another hell of a fight. I was so disappointed when I noticed that you were not going to tear down the city's wall and bring havoc to those within the inner wall. Still, you did use annihilator warheads, and that swarm of giants that came out of nowhere was also interesting. What can I say? You really never cease to amuse me. Akira looked apathetically at him. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're happy. Naturally, Kobayashi completely brushed past Akira's remark and continued. Of course. I always knew you would pull it off. But still, To think that you can do that much damage even before you got your new equipment from Sakashita Heavy Industry. Just what kind of crazy things do you have in mind after they arrive? Nothing. I have no plans on getting caught up in any incident. In contrast to Akira, who had a curt expression, Kobayashi was smiling like a Cheshire cat. It was as if he was saying that it would be impossible for you and that he knew the exact reason why that was the case. Akira sighed. It was a rather deep one. He knew he was partially at fault for the previous incident. Putting that aside, you have my thanks for getting me ammo and equipment through Katsuragi. Things would have gotten way out of hand had you not done that. So, I'm really thankful for it. Don't mention it. It's not like you're a stranger to me. As long as you do something to amuse me with the things I send you, it's all good. Akira did not want to get into a situation that would amuse Kobayashi. His emotions were in full view on his face, which had turned sour. Unfortunately, that only served to amuse Kobayashi even more. Akira sighed once more and decided to put that aside for now. He changed the subject. But still, how did you get those Annihilator warheads? It's not something that you can get your hands on easily, right? I was still recognized as a monster by the city back then. Normally, no one would think it was acceptable to give me that kind of ammo, no. Oh, about that. I was also surprised. You were? But weren't you the one who provided me with those Annihilator warheads? Well, that statement is partially true. To be more precise, it wasn't exactly me. I'm sure you know about those Annihilator warheads very well. Since you shot a few yourself, those warheads packed a lot of firepower. If it's only me, I would never be able to get those for you no matter how hard I try. But then, how did you get them for me? Akira looked at him in confusion while Kobayashi's smile widened. Since it's not something that I can get you myself, it just means that someone else pulled some strings behind the scenes. Considering your situation back then, I bet that person wanted you to shoot those warheads at the city's inner wall. I don't know who they are and why they did that, but one thing is for certain, they knew that those warheads would end up in your possession. Well, I bet that's their main goal. So basically, someone got those warheads for me hoping that I would use them to attack the city's inner wall. Akira could not hide his surprise while Kobayashi continued to elaborate on his hypothesis of what might have happened. Well, this is nothing but just my guess. My original plan was to make you wait until equipment from Sakashita Heavy Industry arrived. At least wait and hide long enough to get your equipment before you actually start fighting. The reason why I provided you with equipment and ammo is so that you don't get desperate and do something reckless. I even told the city that it was for the sake of holding you back as an excuse. When you get your new equipment, I plan on announcing the precise time you'll attack the city so that the city can prepare itself. I was even anticipating someone from the Nationalist offering to help you. That would no doubt result in a bigger fight. But before that came to fruition, someone managed to foist those Annihilator warheads through the delivery I had set up, and if this unknown person's plan came to fruition, that battle would have been so big that it completely obliterated both sides. Nothing outside the inner wall will be left after such a fight. However, seeing how Kobayashi was excitedly talking about destruction and mayhem, Akira could not help but get weirded out. Akira knew he was the reason why Kobayashi could come up with such crazy ideas. After all, he was the one who started it, so he could not blame Kobayashi for it. Thus, Akira spoke up to change the subject. By the way, you're actually a part of city management, right? Is it really okay for you to do something like that? HM? If you're talking about the method I used, nope. It was absolutely not okay. No matter what the reason, I gave access to Annihilator warhead to someone who was officially recognized by the city as a monster. It won't be strange if city management decided to put a bounty on my head. Akira was exasperated after hearing this. He then tilted his head and asked Kobayashi a question. So, it's not okay? Then why would you do that? Did you get fired or something? Nope, as a matter of fact, I got promoted. What? Why? Regardless of what I did, the incident did come to a rather decent conclusion. Though I did provide you with Annihilator warheads, you didn't fire it towards the city. Also, it had allowed you to defeat those giants, which has helped reduce the damage to the city. And it's fine just because of that. Yup, exactly. Organization-wise, The process and method I have used would never be in their guidelines. Rather, everyone would be warned of how dangerous my actions were. So, my actions can't exactly be seen in a good light just because the results were great. However, it must be stressed that if I were to go by the book, and the results were deemed a failure, would my actions not be pointless? Doubly true when failure causes a huge loss. It was a very pragmatic way of thinking. In the end, Kobayashi was able to deal well with someone as dangerous as Akira, and the damage to the city was kept at a minimum. Or at the very least, that was the evaluation of city management toward Kobayashi. Officers who kept their hands off this matter up until now could say anything they wanted, but in the end, the results spoke for themselves. None of their sharp comments could change the final evaluation. Neither could they fault Kobayashi for the damages. Meanwhile, city management did not want to lose someone competent in dealing with dangerous individuals such as Akira. Thus, considering that something similar might happen again in the future, the evaluation of Kobayashi's actions tilted in his favor. The fact that he was able to suppress and resolve the situation weighed more heavily than the fact that he supplied Akira with items that might cause considerable damage to the city. Not to mention his eagerness to push for such provisions were seen as decisiveness. In the case of Hiko, her ability also got praised by city management. They considered her to be competent in dealing with Akira as well. Thus, city management had also decided that in the case something similar happened again in the future, they would first go to Hikaru to handle it. Food that Kobayashi had ordered beforehand started to be placed on the table. Before they started eating, Akira asked another question. Well, the food is here, so let's get to the main subject right away. I'm sure you did not call me here just for some silly banter, right? Sure. The house that you're living in right now, it is still the same house that I introduced you to in the past, right? Yes, why? Sorry, but can you move to somewhere else? Sorry? Akira thought that Kobayashi had called him here to talk about some business connected to Kagomayama City. Therefore, this request completely caught him off guard. Seeing how Akira's facial expression twisted into something he anticipated, Kobayashi laughed merrily and continued. Today's meeting is for my personal business, you see. Had I called you as a staff of city management, I would have told you to come to one of the restaurants on the upper floors. It's just too expensive for me to go there on my own dime. But if you want to go there now, I don't mind. No, it is just that what you said came out of the blue. Why are you suddenly asking me to move out of my house? The housing agency came crying at me, you know? Asking me to get you to move out to somewhere else. I see. Even Akira, who was usually dense, was able to understand why that was. After all, he got into a fight with Lion Steel, which had completely flattened a portion of the slums. As expected, no housing agent would want the area under their management to be the next battleground for such a battle. It was not that hard for Akira to understand why they would be in tears. They're willing to pay the expenses for your move. Well, I do have a good relationship with them, that's why I brought it up. Though it's not like I'm forcing you to move out. It would nonetheless be of great help if you were to move out to somewhere which would not cause any trouble. It's not like I'm refusing, but what will be the outcome if I refuse? Well, it's not like we can do anything about that, right? There are not that many people who have the courage to live next to you. So, I bet they would start cutting their contracts. The housing agency won't dare try to evict you by force. So, I'm sure that the most that would happen is the housing agency crying to sleep every night while they await bankruptcy. I see. Naturally, Akira would turn hostile if he was harshly ordered to get out. Similarly, he would feel guilty if they came at him, pleading while crying. Kobayashi noticed his feelings of guilt and made use of that opening. It's not like you have any grudges against the housing agency, right? So just be nice to them and move to somewhere else. In the first place, that housing area is originally meant for hunters with rank 30 and below, you know? It's no longer suitable for you to keep living there. If you're willing to move out, I can at least help to find another place for you. Akira gave up and softly sighed. All right. That's great then. In that case, you can sign here. Kobayashi then pulled out a document. Akira did ask Alpha to check the contents. Once he received confirmation that the document was okay, he signed it. Now that he had Akira's signature, Kobayashi returned the document to his bag and smiled. We have a deal then. With this, others' evaluation of me will go even higher. What does me moving out have anything to do with their opinion of you? It's complicated. It has something to do with the inner workings of city management. I can't really say it to an outsider. But well, since it's not like we're strangers, I don't mind telling you. But in exchange, make sure to not cause any trouble and just move out, alright? Akira was indeed curious about what lay under Kobayashi's smile. Considering that he had already signed the papers, Akira gave a nod. Alright, so why? There is actually a plan to build up a second wall. Well, to be more precise, that plan had already been around for quite some time now. However, due to unforeseen circumstances and other priorities, it had been delayed indefinitely. But after the previous incident, Kagomayama City suddenly received a huge sum of money from Lion Steel. It was to reimburse for the losses caused by that battle. Because of how dangerous it was, the number of people who wished to get into the inner wall suddenly shot up, so the plan immediately got pushed forward. That battle caused considerable damage to the lower district, but the area inside the inner wall was unharmed. In other words, the populace started to understand the price of safety. Many had previously thought that living within the inner wall was nothing but a status symbol. They thought that reputation aside, living in the lower district was safe enough. Now, these people are flusteredly trying to move inside the inner wall. Thanks to that, the land prices inside the inner wall skyrocketed. It's quite extreme. There were even people who were living within the inner wall who got kicked out to make space. Well, granted that they were barely qualified to be inside in the first place. Anyways, even if we try to make more houses to accommodate the newcomers, in the end, it is surrounded by a wall, so the available land would not increase no matter what we do. Some demanded to build vertically, but there's a limit on how tall the buildings can go. That's why, by building a second wall, everything can be solved. Oh, I see. So basically, we will get the lower district surrounded by a wall as well, but naturally, once the wall is erected, land prices within that wall would jump up. Although it's still in the planning stage, they're already securing lands that are highly likely to be chosen. Kobayashi paused for a bit and smiled. So that's where you come in. Except for you living there, the area where you're living is actually a pretty good area. As expected, that was enough of a hint for Akira. I see now. The request for Akira to leave was because the housing agency wanted the land under their management to be chosen. Furthermore, city management wanted to avoid having Akira inside the second wall. Therefore, Kobayashi, who managed to get Akira to peacefully leave, would be better appreciated both by city management and the housing agency. Kobayashi broke out his trademark amused smile as he said, "So there you have it. Well, since they're willing to pay for the moving out expense, you can build yourself a luxurious home with that amount." Alright. HM? Not rent. Yeah, you can build your own house. Just to let you know, I bet there's no housing agency around here willing to rent property to you. I'm sure you know the reason, right? Since Akira knew why, as expected, he could not think of any counter-arguments. He just bitterly smiled with a troubled expression. In contrast, Kobayashi was still smiling as usual as he continued. Don't worry. Although their cases are not exactly the same as yours, many hunters have gone through what you are going through. As I promised, I will help you find a new home, so I will at least tell you how to deal with your current situation. Well, thanks, I guess. There was a tint of irritation in Akira's voice, but even so, Kobayashi's smile still stayed the same. Kobayashi advised Akira to build his own home on the outskirt of the city. It was the common choice taken by hunters who could no longer live inside the city due to certain reasons. Naturally, the condition for this was the hunter's relationship with the city, which had to at least be amicable. Not strained enough for the city to issue a military hunt if the hunters got close. At the same time, these hunters must be strong. The hunters must be strong because the outskirts were not a safe place. There were monsters from the wasteland and robbers from the slums. Thus, the hunters who were in this situation had to be strong enough such that those monsters and robbers posed no problem to them. As a matter of fact, they could even add security value to the area around where these hunters lived. Although they had to pay security to guard the house while they were off to hunt for relics or monsters, it was not that different from when they lived inside the city. In the city, they still had to pay for the security of their homes. This deposit would be paid to private security companies, which would be held responsible for keeping the area where their houses were safe. When an individual hired a group of guards, there were cases where they got along and performed really well. Some formed a new private security company, which would contribute to the long-term safety of the area around their houses. As the safety level increased, others would naturally flock there. The price of land would naturally increase, and the economy of the area would develop. After it reached a certain standard, eventually, that area would be recognized as a new portion of the lower district of the nearest city. When it reached that point, the original hunters who first started establishing their homes there would be recognized to have contributed greatly to supporting a new economic area. This would be reflected in their track record, which in turn would allow them to rent a house in the city again, if they wish, of course. Furthermore, Kobayashi recommended Akira to use those from Cheryl's gang as his guards. That way, there was no need to start a new private security company from scratch. It was already known to be an organization formed under Akira's support. Thus, it had enough power to keep an area safe even within the slums. Furthermore, it was connected to Inabe, a city officer. It was a perfect choice. Meanwhile, before his new house got completed, he could live in Cheryl's base. After listening to Kobayashi's advice, Akira left and went to Cheryl's base. As expected, Cheryl was extremely happy when she heard about this plan. Her smile was dazzlingly bright as she said, "Of course. Just leave it to us. We can take on the guard duty and we're more than happy to have you live inside the base. To be honest, I don't mind if you use this base as your new home, you know? You can pick any room that you want. We'll empty it for you. We can also change the layout of the base if you want. Thank you for your offer, but it's all right. As expected, I want to have my new house properly built somewhere else." "I see. In that case, how about next to this base? It'll be convenient to have it nearby, that I will carefully ponder it over. I will also have to think carefully about the blueprint for the house as well." "Indeed. It's not like you can just change the layout once it's built and you find something unsatisfactory. I think it's best to take your time to plan it out before deciding." The longer Akira had to plan, the longer he would have to stay in her base. That was why Cheryl carefully and fervently encouraged him with her charming smile. "You're right. I will take my time to think about it. I need to think about how much money I have to set aside for this as well. By the way, Cheryl, if Viola is around, tell her to come and meet me. There's something I need to talk to her about." "Of course." Cheryl was not really sure how his expenses would have anything to do with Viola. Nonetheless, she quickly called Viola over. Since Viola had something to do in the base at that time, she quickly came over to see Akira. "Akira, long time no see. I heard you have something to talk to me about." Viola came and smiled amicably at him as she spoke. However, her expression was slightly tense. Akira had almost killed her after she got him involved in an incident in the slums. It was after she negotiated with him that he agreed to spare her life in exchange for helping Cheryl's gang. The previous time she met Akira was back in Miyazono Ruin, when he threatened her to tell him about Chloe's whereabouts. To repay her for the information, he stated that he would not regret sparing her life. Before he left, he reminded Viola to hope that Chloe was really there. Viola had no idea if Akira was able to find Chloe with the information she gave him. If he was not able to, that might be the end for her. Akira might kill her right now. Although it was now removed, Akira had a 50 billion orum bounty on his head and even tried to kill a member of the founding family of the Lion Steel Company. Though no one knew for sure if he was the one who did it, Chloe's death was already widely known. Akira was someone who would not hesitate to kill when he decided to. It was regardless of who that person was. Naturally, Viola could not maintain her usual calm in front of such a person. However, Akira did not notice how she felt as he casually asked Viola. "Say, Cheryl is basically indebted to me, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's about me being a hunter supporting her gang. Furthermore, you're helping the gang to repay that debt. So, about that, how much of that debt is left?" A rough approximation is enough. Hearing his question, Viola sighed in relief as her usual smile returned. Let's see, probably somewhere about 50 billion orum. 50 billion, huh? That amount was the highest Viola could come out with, which she would not get Akira to be suspicious. At the same time, it was also to push Akira to keep sparing her life so that she could help Cheryl's gang repay the debt. Although Cheryl did think that amount was a little exaggerated, she did not say that outright. She only sent an easy-to-notice questioning glance at him to let Akira know. However, since Akira was rather inept in that kind of thing, and with it being the same amount as his now-removed bounty, he did not question it at all. He simply declared, "I see. Well, Cheryl, considering all the things that I put your gang through during my conflict with Lion Steel, let's take it that we're even. You don't need to pay me back anymore." Cheryl and Viola were equally surprised to see Akira casually let go of such a huge sum. He then continued, "As for the debt that you have for me backing your gang, well, considering that your gang will guard my house soon and with other things like investment for the relic shop, what do you call that, again? Stock? We can call that even as well. I hate having to deal with debts and stuff like that." After hearing that, Cheryl's surprised expression quickly turned into a big smile. In a sense, that debt was her only connection with Akira. If it was taken away, she would have felt more anxious than happy. However, with Akira mentioning about guarding his new home as well as investing in the relic shop, it meant that they were still connected. This helped relieve her anxiousness. It also allowed her to know that Akira believed that she had been a great help during his fight with the Lion Steel Company. This made her on cloud 9. Of course. "Akira, thank you very much. I will be in your care in the future as well." "Yeah, I'll be relying on you." Now that matters with you are done, next would be Viola. Sure, what can I help?" The reason why Akira let Viola live was so that she could help Cheryl repay that huge debt to Akira. Now that Cheryl's debt was gone, as expected, Viola could not hide her unease. "I brought up what you owe to me back then when I asked for information about Chloe's whereabouts. I did that because I didn't have money back then. But now that I have money, as I thought, it's better for me to repay you that way, right? That I'm pretty sure I did say that it would at least cost a few million orum. It might be with a few more zeros though, do you remember?" "I do. If it's only a few 100 million orum, I can pay you. Depending on how many zeros you add, I might still be able to pay for it." Akira really did have that much. Lion Steel did not raise any issues when it came to his compensation for what he had lost in that battle. Thus, it was processed quickly. The whole thing included all ammunition used, his new equipment, and the bike that he had lost. It all totaled to 20 billion orum. Representative Alice stated to Akira that the Lion Steel Eastern District main branch would compensate for all the losses from that incident. Naturally, Akira did not expect them to just simply pay 20 billion orum without saying anything. This just reminded him how powerful these so-called large companies were. Akira did convey his thoughts on compensating Shiro back the amount. He asked Shiro if it was better for him to return the 16 billion orum back. However, instead of getting told that he could just return the money, Shiro got angry at him. Shiro warned Akira that he should prioritize his request, just like what their original deal was. Thus, Akira was able to get the money to pay for Viola's information. Considering that he had to build his new home, he thought that it was better to pay for the information first. Although his housing options would be limited if he had to pay more than 10 billion orum to Viola, he believed that paying for that information took priority since it was accurate. "So then, how much is it?" Viola winced back. The fact that Akira brought that up meant that there was a high chance he would actually pay with money. Viola at least knew that much. However, if he paid with money, it would mean that the thing Akira had put up as collateral would be returned. Namely, the thought of not regretting sparing her life. On the other hand, if she said some impossibly huge sum just to make sure Akira would not be able to pay it, he would see through her intentions. Otherwise, Cheryl would point it out. That would definitely worsen her situation. Viola then smiled with her usual mysterious smile as she said, "But before that, I want to ask you a question first. How much value did my information provide compared to my debt to you? Back then, you told me to hope that you would find Chloe there, nothing more. As I said, Chloe was actually there, right? So, with that information being correct, we need to first admit the value of that information. So then, how much is it valued? Let's see. Akira pondered. Seeing that, Viola's smile widened. However, it was only from the outside. On the inside, she got even more tense. Akira eventually made his decision. If Cheryl asks me to dispose of you, I will at least ask for the reason first and think about it before actually disposing of you, I guess? After all, it is thanks to your information that I was able to find Chloe. Viola felt like she was freed from shackles when she heard those words. It meant that Cheryl would no longer be able to simply decide her life and death. Viola could not help but to leak out an honest smile. In that case, that is good enough for the information. That was our agreement back then, so I don't need you to pay me anything. Is that so? But you did ask me if I can pay it or not. So wouldn't money be better? Seeing Akira uncertain, Cheryl intervened with a smile. Akira is right, money is better. If you're holding yourself back because of how expensive it is, the gang would help pay it too. You don't have to worry about it. Moreover, we can also ask Inabe-san if need be. Cheryl was thinking of disposing Viola once she was done with her. Now that her debt to Akira was mostly gone, she did not see any issue with getting rid of Viola considering she no longer had a need for her. With a hunter as powerful as Akira, who would go as far as fight against a company like Lion Steel, there was no longer any need to have Viola handle relationships with other organizations. If Akira resolved this matter with money, then he would really have no reason to keep Viola alive. That was why Cheryl suggested Akira to resolve the matter with money. Seeing Cheryl pushing that option, Viola quickly interjected. No, that would be a horrible idea. No matter what the reason, it's not good to turn back on the deal that you've made. Trust is extremely important for a strong hunter. So, it would be horrendous if you did that, you know? Since we made a deal, we need to honor it. If people start questioning your integrity, you won't be able to make deals with anyone anymore, you know? Even if it's a deal that would benefit the other side, they won't believe your words. After all, there's an example of you not honoring a deal in the past. Such a mark would completely tarnish your track record. Akira understood what Viola was saying. It reminded him of how Shiro refused his offer to repay the 16 billion orum. It was a large sum of money to him. Thus, he agreed that if the other party said that there was no need, he should not push it. Besides, keeping it was more beneficial to him as well. You have a point, all right, that will be all then. Is that so? Well, I'm busy right now, so please let me excuse myself. Viola smiled, turned around, and left the room. She could hear Cheryl click her tongue behind her. In the end, Viola managed to get through this meeting safely, though only barely. She was still alive. It was a fact which made her break out a gentle smile in celebration. Cheryl looked at Akira with objection. Akira, was the information from Viola that valuable to you? HM? Well, yeah, pretty much. I see. Cheryl smiled and was determined to learn how to gather information to reduce Viola's usefulness to Akira. Akira then returned back home. He enjoyed his last dip in the bath of that house. With the vacate document already signed, he planned on bringing his stuff to Cheryl's base the next day. The first time he took a bath after he moved in, it felt extremely luxurious. However, after multiple dips, it felt normal. After he had experienced the more luxurious bath in Cheryl's base, he was now not able to fully appreciate his own bath. Even so, since this would be the last time, he felt a bit sautéed having to not be able to take a bath here ever again. As Akira thought of all that had happened to him up until now ever since he rented this house, he spoke in a contemplative voice. But still, a lot has happened since I moved into this house. Alpha, who was also in the bath together with him, was acting as usual. She smiled at him. You can say that again. A lot of things have happened up until now. It was one hell of a journey. Indeed it was. But just a bit more. Once your new equipment from Sakashita Heavy Industry arrives, we can finally go to explore our target ruin. To be honest, Akira was not thinking about that. However, once Alpha mentioned it, he could not help but think about it too. That I see, it's finally soon, huh? Yup, it really took a long time. Though, it did not take as long as I had thought it would. What do you think? Can't really say for sure. Either way, we can only go once I have my new equipment. We still have to deal with Shiro's request as well. Though what we have to do right now is just wait. I wonder when they will actually arrive. That was when Akira received a call from Kobayashi. The moment he took that call through Alpha, he could hear Kobayashi's voice being suspiciously uppity. Yo there, Akira. I have 3 pieces of news for you. One bad, one good, one a bit good. I bet what you mean is 1 bad news, 1 really bad news, and 1 not really good news, right? Considering that it was Kobayashi, Akira could not help but get cautious. Don't worry, it's not that bad. I will start with the good news as proof. Is that so? What is it? The vehicle carrying your new equipment is already somewhere close to Kagamayama City. Hearing that, Akira could not hide his surprise. However, that also completely changed. So, what is the bad news? It is about the vehicle transporting your new equipment. For some reason, it got caught in an accident and had to stop in the middle of the wasteland. There are still no clear estimates as to when they can continue. Knew that something wrong would happen, seriously? Akira sighed. But hearing that, Kobayashi's voice seemed even happier. Don't get too sad. I still have 1 more piece of good news, you know? I'm sure you'll cheer up once you hear it. I hope that is indeed the case, so what is it? Just because it's originally for you, doesn't mean they will hand over your cargo even if you go there yourself to pick it up. Well, those are frontline equipment we're talking about. They are regulated under very strict rules. So, as I said, even if you go there to pick it up yourself, they won't hand it over to you. Confirming your identity is not going to help. Even if they are directed to you, the cargo is still owned by Sakashita Heavy Industry. Saying that it is yours will not help. So, where is the good part of this news? Be patient. The good news comes right after this. If you want to get your new equipment immediately, I can arrange it such that you can pick them up yourself. Basically, you will be taking on the role of a transportation personnel. Isn't that great? Well, if it's too much trouble going there yourself, feel free to just wait until they arrive. Tell me, isn't this good news? What will happen to my stuff if I say that I will just wait? They will arrive late, that's all. Though, I can't really say for certain how late they will be. You keep asking me when they might arrive, so I assume you want them as fast as possible, no? That's true, I'll be counting on you then. Of course. Just leave it to me. I will get to work right away. You should also prepare yourself when you go pick them up, alright? Until then, later. After Kobayashi ended the call, Akira frowned and seemed rather troubled. It was indeed great that he could pick his stuff up himself. However, the fact that an intercity transport vehicle got stuck in the middle of the wasteland was rather suspicious. Akira had once traveled in an intercity transport convoy from Kagamayama City to Ziegelt City. At that time, there was also an incident. However, the transport convoy did not stop at all. Therefore, something big must have happened for an intercity transport vehicle to stop in the middle of the wasteland. Kobayashi's fervent encouragement for him to go there only served to prove his worries. Alpha made her usual smile as she spoke. Let's hope it's nothing big. We can prepare as much as we can before going there to pick up your new equipment. Yeah, let's do that. Akira smiled bitterly. He already knew that his wish would not be granted. It was clear Alpha also shared the same thoughts. Otherwise, she would not have added, prepare as much as we can before going. Chapter 293, that Akira. Inside a certain room in the upper district of Kagamayama City, Shugadome, an officer from Sakashita Heavy Industry, was looking solemnly at the person in front of him. Welcome. Or so I want to say, but is this everyone from the investigation team? Just you? Alone? Even in the face of a high-ranking officer from Sakashita Heavy Industry, that man, Marwa, was still completely calm. The anti-rebuild is working very hard every day to ensure the survival of the Eastern District. As such, we're always short on people. It's not easy to adjust our posting, you see. It seems like they had to go through a lot of trouble just to send me here. I hope you can understand. Thank you, and I apologize. I know you must be very busy. After that short exchange, it had clearly shown their standing toward one another. Shugadome then stepped into the main subject. Well then, please start the investigation right away. If you need extra help, we will send some of our men as well. Very well. By the way, just to make sure, this Shiro-kun, who is mentioned in the documents, do you have any objection if we deal with him ourselves? Shugadome squinted his eyes. Of course, but please only do so when there are no other alternatives. If you kill him unnecessarily, we will see that as a hostile act toward our company. It was a firm warning from one of the 5 biggest corporations. Everyone in the Eastern District knew just how frightening crossing them was. It was not an exaggeration, nor an overstatement. It literally meant picking a fight against 1/5 of the whole Eastern District's economic zones. Even so, Marwa was completely calm. No need to worry about that. Well then, we will start the investigation right away. Please let me excuse myself. Marwa slightly lowered his head and left the room. Shugadome saw him off inside. The anti-rebuild had the duty of protecting the Eastern District. Among them, there were those who were extremists. They saw everything as minute when compared to the sake of protecting the world. That I can only hope that things would get resolved peacefully. Acting based on caution did not always go along with being effective. As a high-ranking officer of Sakashita Heavy Industry, Shugadome always reminded himself of that fact. He understood that he had no other choice but to use such people with great caution. Nonetheless, Shugadome still had a migraine whenever he saw how these kinds of people around him continued to increase. Marwa left Shugadome's room and walked past Yanagisawa in the hallway. That must be Yanagisawa. Well, my priority right now is to investigate Shiro-kun. Let's put matters related to him for later. An investigator from Anti-Rebuild? It seems that I must hasten the plan. Though both recognized each other, they did not say anything as they walked past each other. Akira took the camping vehicle that he received from Carol to drive through the wasteland. His destination was where the intercity vehicle got stuck. After he spoke with Shizuka and spoke with Katsuragi, Akira prepared as much as he could. Though, as expected, he could not retain his previous bike, the one he bought from Ziegelt City. Likewise, he could not get more Annihilator warheads. At the very least, he was able to refresh his supply and do some maintenance for his augmented suit and rifles. With all the supplies that he stuffed into the vehicle, the insides felt stuffy even when only 2 people were on board. Akira and Shiro. Shiro, there's no need for you to come with me, you know? It's fine, isn't it? As per our agreement, I will have you complete my request first after you obtain your new equipment. So, coming with you would mean there will be no need for you to return back to the city first. Yeah. You're right, but why are you in such a hurry? I'm sorry, but I'm a little desperate right now. But it's not like I'm doubting you or anything. Akira also had something else to do once he got his frontline equipment. Thus, he understood why Shiro would insist on coming along, to make sure Akira would prioritize his request first. Moreover, it was true that Shiro was in a hurry. He only had 3 days out of the 1-month grace time that Shugadome had granted him. Thus, he could not afford to waste even a single second. As Shiro re-evaluated his current situation, he heaved a sigh. That I didn't even have any spare time to create a negotiation route to Tsubaki like Shugadome had asked. If I return back without having done anything, they will really treat me as a renegade from Sakashita. Say, Akira, if it has come to that, can you please find a way to reserve a place for me in Tsukasada? No. Whoa, you don't even need to think about it, huh? Just so you know, I'm pretty amazing. You should take more time to think about it. Absolutely not. Shiro sighed once again since Akira showed no signs of willingness to negotiate. Though, it was just a huge misunderstanding on Shiro's part. Akira actually had no connection with Tsukasada construction. Thus, he was incapable of fulfilling Shiro's request. In that case then, Akira, how about I focus on creating a negotiation route to Tsubaki and? Shiro was only saying so jokingly, but he stopped midway when he noticed Akira's face twitched. You don't tell me you already have a route to contact Tsubaki? I don't. That's a lie. Then what is with that reaction? I negotiated with Tsubaki before, that's all. But that has already been concluded. So, it's not a lie. I have no negotiation route to Tsubaki. Concluded? Then how are you still alive? Sakashita tried to negotiate with Tsubaki before. After conveying the contents of our offer and its demands, she killed everyone there. This included the negotiator and his escorts. The negotiator even got his whole body sliced into minced meat, you know? Well, except for their head. Hearing that, Akira was once again reminded of how precarious the situation was back then. His face turned slightly pale. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Shiro could relent as this was an unexpected opportunity. Although the negotiation ended in failure, you were able to still negotiate. Heck, you're still alive, which means you do have a route to contact Tsubaki. Please, help me make a negotiation route to Tsubaki. No. What? Why? Does it have something to do with Tsukisada? If yes, I'm willing to talk with Tsukisada about this. It's not that simple, alright? Let's just put this matter for later. The intercity transport vehicle is coming into view. Since the gigantic intercity transport vehicle was visible from afar, Shiro decided to acquiesce to Akira's demand and give up for now. But I'll definitely bring this up again later. Akira sighed. Alpha, Shiro is asking for that? So, what's the actual situation? Can you find a way to make a communication route to Tsubaki? That will depend on how they define this route. If it's only a single opportunity to negotiate with Tsubaki without any guarantee for their safety, then yes. But to be honest, I don't see why we have to do such a thing for him. That's true. As the intercity transport vehicle was getting closer, suddenly, a call through the general-purpose communication line reached Akira. I am a representative of the private military contractor, Brunkle. Under the agreement with Kagemayama City, Mirakawa City, and Tarkian City, the area ahead is closed off due to various reasons. I'll send you the exact area that is closed off. I apologize for the inconvenience, but please take another route. This is Akira, a hunter. I have some business with the Atlas D-2771 inside that enclosed area. I already have permission from Kagemayama City. I will send you the documents, so please check them. Akira forwarded the documents. The guy on the other side checked them and exclaimed in surprise. I've confirmed the documents. So, you're that Akira, huh? I have things that I need to explain first, so stop your vehicle at the designated location. Sure. Akira closed the call and made a bitter smile. Welp, it seems like it has come to a point where they recognize me as that Akira, huh? That just shows how great your track record is. I guess you're right. Alpha said with a smile, to which Akira was only able to agree. Akira stopped the camping vehicle pretty close to one of the intertransport vehicles. Its large size was barely able to fit into his view. Around him, soldiers from Brunkle were patrolling around the closed-off area to secure the intercity transport vehicle. Akira, for some reason, found them to be strange. Alpha, it might be just my imagination, but aren't they posting more soldiers within the enclosed area instead of around its outskirts? That seems to be indeed the case. Just what is going on? Akira frowned, considering that Kobayashi sent him there with such a huge smile. Some kind of incident was bound to happen. Seeing some men from Brunkle approaching the camping vehicle, Akira stepped out. Those men looked at Akira with interest. So, you must be Akira, right? I'll give you the map information for Atlas D-2771. Your stuff should be in there, so you can go to pick them up yourself. I'm sure there's no need for me to warn you, don't take others' cargo, alright? We might suspect you of trying to steal something if you go outside the indicated areas. So, don't go around entering places. Just only go through the doors that are open. Alright. Up until that point, that warning was pretty reasonable. After Akira received the map information, the explanation took a strange turn. I don't mind if you decide to fight against enemies, but as expected, it would be great if you can avoid using annihilator warheads. The damage to the vehicle will be too big and it might damage the other cargo as well. For Akira, who was there only to pick up his cargo, he did not expect to find words like enemies and fight. What exactly is going on inside the vehicle? Or more like, why did an intercity transport vehicle get stuck in the middle of the wasteland like this? You didn't hear anything from Kagemayama City? Yeah, I only heard that the cargo I've been waiting for quite a long time got stuck in the middle of transport. I was advised that since it might take a long time to arrive, I should go pick it up myself. I see. In that case, I'm sorry. I can't tell you anything, I don't have the permission to do it. It's fine. In that case, if the situation is really that awful, just tell me what you can tell me. The guy tilted his head and hummed before speaking. We are here basically to take over the job to close the area around Atlas D2771. Most of the team members present have hunter ranks around 60. Though we were offered the job to storm into the vehicle, we refused. It just doesn't seem to be worth the trouble. Basically, there was something dangerous inside the intercity transport vehicle. It was so risky that a group of rank 60 hunters refused to go in. Though Akira was very thankful for that information, it did not change the fact that he was heading there. He knitted his eyebrows at the thought. Thank you for the valuable information. You're welcome. Akira returned back to the camping vehicle. The guy saw Akira off with an amused smile. As they watched Akira drive his camping vehicle toward Atlas D2771, the men from Brunkle talked about their impressions of him after seeing that Akira up close. So that was Akira, huh? The hunter who had a 50 billion aurum bounty on his head. He doesn't look that strong, so I wonder just how strong he really is. Yeah, that was Akira. I heard that he obliterated a group of hunters that tried to kill him all by himself. I bet the right amount for his bounty should be way above 50 billion aurum. I would bet on that as well. You have to consider the fact that he dared to pick a fight against a branch of the Lion Steel Company and survived. So, there's no doubt his bounty should be way more. Also, he's still young, you know? I bet hunters who eventually manage to go to the front lines are just like him. Well, I don't know all the details, but we should just enjoy his fight from here. The hunters from Brunkle were much stronger than any hunters around the area, and they showed a deep interest in Akira. The colossal intercity transport vehicle was so huge that it might change the definition of a vehicle. The ramp that came out from inside it was 10 meters wide, and it led up to a height taller than a 3-story building. It was wide and long enough to give sufficient space for cargo to go in and out of the intercity transport vehicle. It was guarded by many soldiers at its sides. Akira stopped the camping vehicle near the upper part of the ramp. Shiro, by any chance, can you tell what is going on inside this transport vehicle? Shiro raised his eyebrows in surprise. Don't tell me you came here without knowing anything? Wait, the information about the lockdown by Sakshita might not have reached Tsukasada yet? I don't mind telling you, but be careful with what I'm going to say. It's basically secret information. I'm sure you know what will happen if they discover their secret information got leaked outside of the Big Five corporations of the Eastern District. Alright, I'll be careful. So then what is going on? Shiro hesitated. Is this really going to be okay? It doesn't seem like he is good at keeping secrets or lying. Just like back then when I noticed that he was an agent from Tsukasada, it was easy to judge what he was thinking from his expression. Someone with zero subtleties like him is not suitable as an investigation agent, so just why did Tsukasada send him out? Considering his ability to fight, did Tsukasada send him here because there is high probability combat will be involved in this mission? Is that why he came all the way here to pick up his frontline equipment? Shiro got even more confused than before. However, he quickly cut it off there and wrapped it up as Tsukasada construction having its own reasons. Considering how losing Akira here would not help with his goal, Shiro finally decided to tell Akira what he knew. That it's not confirmed yet, but it seems like Atlas D2771 is transporting the cube and it got attacked by people who are aiming for it. Although they were unable to repel the attack, they somehow managed to lock the attackers inside the vehicle. The cube itself is still safe while the attackers are still locked inside, even now. The cube, some people might also call it the seed. It was a device with parts resembling cubes. It was found underground, and if activated, it would bloom like a flower and create something from the old world. These were the reasons why it was called the cube or the seed. It was thought to be a nanomachine cluster with regenerative capabilities, originally an old-world production device. Rumors say it could create all kinds of things using its supplies from where it was activated. It could create humans, biological living beings, machines, houses, factories, or even old-world cities complete with its own denizens. In the past, one cube fully rebuilt an old-world military base. That military base then sent out soldiers to clean up the illegal occupants around the area. In other words, clean up people from the current world, and eventually caused significant damage. Though, there were also records stating how those from the corporate government had dispatched men to control the situation. They somehow managed to extract the old-world technology used by that military base, which ended up creating more profits than losses. Thus, it became widely known that if it bloomed uncontrollably, it would turn into a huge problem. Though, if the ones using it were able to accurately predict what it might produce and prepare accordingly, it might turn a problem into a blessing, netting them a huge amount. This was why it was still considered to be a highly valuable relic. Akira was listening to Shiro's explanation while also listening to extra information from Alpha. This greatly helped him in understanding what he was facing. However, that did not change how dire the situation was as he knitted his eyebrows. Say, is it normal for an intercity transport vehicle to get attacked like this? Well, it would be a biased opinion since I used the opening left behind when the intercity transport vehicle got attacked to escape. It is actually a very rare occurrence. Rather, it almost never happens. Even if the attackers are capable of damaging the intercity transport vehicles, it would still be suicidal. Then why do the ones that I get involved with always get attacked? There's no way I would know the answer to that. Isn't it simply just because the area under Kagomayama is not normal? I heard that recently, many huge incidents have occurred around Kagomayama City, you know? That is not normal at all. Akira unconsciously looked away. He knew that he was involved in most of those huge incidents. No one would believe him if he said that he was roped in by pure coincidence. In some cases, he was even the main source of such incidents. That was why Akira inadvertently reacted to Shiro's words. Shiro noticed that and found it strange. Say, Akira, by any chance, were you dispatched here to investigate those huge incidents? Maybe. Since him being an agent from Tsukisada Construction was a misunderstanding he wanted to keep, Akira curtly replied. Shiro did not pursue it any further. Even if all those incidents were related to Akira, he did not have the leeway to care about it at the moment. Well then, I'll go pick up my stuff then. Alright, be careful. If the attackers are really aiming for the cube, they must be strong. Though, it's kind of redundant to state that since only those with sufficient might would attempt to attack an intercity transport vehicle. Yeah, it's not like my aim is to fight them anyway. I will just quickly leave once I get my new equipment. Akira prepared himself to go inside the intercity transport and left the camping vehicle. Up the ramp, it led into the cargo compartment of Atlas D-2771. The squad sent to secure the transport vehicle were securing the junctions that connected to multiple compartments. Akira walked through the cargo sector A7 and eventually stopped in front of a door. He gazed at it as if he was trying to peek through it. Akira's information-gathering device noticed what he was trying to do and prioritized its computational power to analyze the information coming from in front of him. Though it reduced the area under its watch, it greatly increased its accuracy. It was to the point that a normal wall would seem transparent to him. However, Akira could not see through the door. It didn't work, huh? Alpha, can you give me a hand? Though he was not able to do it using the power of his information-gathering device, it might be possible with Alpha's help. That was why he asked for her support. Though it would serve as excellent training if he relied solely on his own ability, it would be meaningless if he lost his equipment in the process. Thus, Akira was planning not to hold back. He was willing to rely on Alpha's support whenever necessary. However, Alpha shook her head and explained, Akira, unfortunately, I can't see through it as well. This transport vehicle is divided into multiple sectors with each sector being protected by a powerful force field armor. Due to the abnormally high power being discharged to keep up these force field armors, information is blocked from leaking out. Ah, so it is one of those that prevent the propagation of information, huh? Yeah, no matter how much my support increases the power of your information-gathering device, it is still limited. I can only improve the quality of the software and how it processes information. I can increase the quality of its sensors, which is its hardware. If the sensors can't even pick up signals from the other side due to interference, I won't be able to do anything about it. I see, alright then. Please provide me with support for the other parts. No matter what is going on inside the transport vehicle, I really need to pick up my new equipment no matter what. Of course. Just leave it to me. Seeing Alpha's usual smile filled with confidence, Akira pulled himself together and smiled back at her. The locked door between the sectors prevented him from going any further. However, Akira already received permission to unlock them. Once he informed the guards nearby that he was going to open the door, a vehicle-wide announcement was made. It warned everyone in the area that the door was about to be opened. There was fear of the attackers waiting behind that door. Everyone in the area was tense as they readied their rifles. This included Akira. The door slowly opened, and information started to get leaked through the small opening. Akira quickly acted and analyzed whatever he could. Any result was shown in his enhanced vision. He could even see the route that laid in front of him, and fortunately, no enemies were detected. It seems alright. I'm going in. Akira went through the open door and into the hallway. Immediately after he entered, the door automatically closed, once again isolating that sector. As he proceeded deeper, he was ambushed by enemies in the form of a swarm of small multi-legged drones. They were able to freely run along the ceiling, walls, and floor. Some were even capable of flight as they shot Akira with their laser cannons. However, with his current equipment, they were basically harmless. Akira accurately predicted where their shots were going to land. He easily avoided their barrage and shot them down with charge bullets using his RL-2 multi-rifles. The bullets, charged with energy, formed a wall, which annihilated the swarm. The drones did not stand a chance against the might of his bullets and got blown to pieces in a blink of an eye. Nothing was left, except for their remains scattered on the floor. However, more of them were coming from the front. Worse, they started coming from behind as well, forming a pincer with Akira in the middle. Akira calmly dealt with them. With 2 RL-2 multi-rifles in his hand, he could shoot his front and back at the same time. Without anywhere to escape, the barrage crushed the swarm with no mercy. Even if they were protected by powerful armor, a single charge bullet easily pierces through them. It even blew them up to smaller pieces. As Akira was shooting down the swarm, they were also shooting back at him. Some of the drones used their defeated counterpart as shields. They managed to survive barely long enough to shoot back at him. Their laser cannons released a concentrated beam of energy that even scorched the air. The beams melted through metal as they went straight for Akira. However, Akira remained unfazed. He completely saw through where those rays were going and evaded them. Meanwhile, the heated air from the lasers was completely blocked off by his augmented suit's force field armor. The battle only lasted for a few minutes. In that short time, countless lasers and bullets were exchanged in that narrow hallway. Akira, the winner, was completely unharmed. Even his breathing remained steady. Meanwhile, the swarm got completely obliterated. Even rank 60 hunters were not willing to go inside this vehicle. That ambush Akira had just received clearly showed the reason why. However, he handled it flawlessly. As a matter of fact, he seemed to be a bit disappointed. They were weaker than he had expected, especially when his enemies were aiming for the famous, invaluable cube. Is that it? Seeing how he reacted, Alpha smiled and said, "That's because of my support, so it only amounted to this much." Well, you have a point. Akira did not retort and simply agreed to what she said. Alpha's smile turned softer and kinder. You've also gotten stronger. As expected, after surviving the fight with Lion Steel, Akira had indeed become stronger than before. So much so that even Alpha had to truthfully admit he had done well. Did I see? Akira smiled. He seemed happy. He felt both a sense of accomplishment and happiness since before he realized it, he had become strong enough for Alpha to recognize his strength. His personal strength and his frontline equipment, Akira had satisfied one of the two requirements to go and do Alpha's request. Furthermore, it would not be long before he satisfied the other requirement. That was when Alpha lightly teased him. But Akira, no matter how weak your enemies are, you should not hope to fight strong enemies, right? I know. I also prefer weak enemies. I've been fighting so many strong enemies up until now. It's great to have an easy battle like this from time to time. All right, let's go. Akira smiled bitterly and went deeper. After he left the hallway, a change suddenly occurred. Some of the scattered pieces left over melted to form a liquid and started combining into a single object. This green liquid spread along the floor, consuming any other pieces it made contact with. A large green puddle gathered in one place and started to solidify, as if it was using the metals that it had consumed as materials, eventually forming a humanoid object. Once no more liquid was left on the floor, all the wreckage around already got consumed by it. The only thing that remained was a girl formed out of that liquid. It was a young girl clad in an old-world augmented suit. She glanced in the direction where Akira went, and then a moment later, she started running in the opposite direction. Chapter 294, Shiro's Surprise. Two groups of hunters just arrived in the cargo sector A7. This was the sector that had become the only way in and out of Atlas D-2771. They came to secure the intercity transport vehicle and eliminate the attackers. One of the teams was headed by Tatsukawa and Melshia, while the other team was led by Zealous. Tatsukawa seemed fired up as he heartily laughed. Good grief, if only they had hired us to escort the intercity transport vehicle itself. This would not have happened. Now, they're calling for us when it's already too late, am I right, Melshia? The offer did reach us before, though. In the end, we could not agree on the reward they offered, that it did? But well, if we could not agree on the reward, then it was still their fault, right? The offer came in a rush. We were going to do it when it came. I did say that I don't mind accepting it, but you got a little annoyed and demanded a huge amount, remember? Saying something like, they should have offered at least this much for interrupting our good time. Tatsukawa finally remembered what had happened after Melshia pointed it out. He was only able to laugh awkwardly as he tried to move away from this topic. Noticing his obvious attempt, Melshia giggled and spoke. Well, thanks to that, they eventually agreed to hire us with a huge amount. So, it was not all that bad. Tatsukawa quickly decided to ride on the wave she gave and nodded along with her argument. All right? All right then, let's get started. With how much we were offered, let's do this seriously. As Tatsukawa was about to enter the intercity transport vehicle, Melshia suddenly grabbed and stopped him. We're not done coordinating with Zealous-san's team yet, so wait for a bit. Zealous, who had been listening to their conversation, sighed and changed the subject. Are you done now? Well then, about the sectors that our respective teams will secure. Zealous' team and Tatsukawa's team were hired separately. Therefore, their chain of command was not the same and they were moving separately. To make sure there would not be any conflicts between their teams, including gaps between firepower and contribution to this mission, it was important to discuss everything beforehand. Of course, they had completed the majority of their discussion before they came here. The only thing that remained was a final confirmation for what was agreed upon prior, and actions taken under certain circumstances. As high-ranking hunters, Zealous and Melshia were already used to it. Thus, they quickly went through everything and were about to conclude their discussion. That was when Zealous suddenly added one extra condition. I don't know all the details, but it seems like Akira is inside Atlas D-2771 as well. In the scenario we somehow encountered him, I want you to handle the talking. I'm sure you already know that my team has a history with him. Back then when Akira still had a 50 billion Aurum bounty on his head, Zealous' team broke into two factions. The vice captain, Gelgus, wanted to join the bounty hunt while Zealous was against it. In the end, Zealous could not prevent the faction under Gelgus from splitting up and leaving the team. Gelgus' death and his team's defeat simply showed how Zealous' prediction about Akira was right. It was unfortunate that both sides could not peer into the future and knew about this outcome. Thus, it could even be said that both sides had their own valid reasons which caused the team to split into two factions. Since they did not split up because of a fight, Zealous still recognized Gelgus as well as those that left the team under Gelgus as his friends. Had Gelgus won against Akira, it was highly likely that the split teams would merge back again. Though, at that point, the leadership would shift to Gelgus. It was only natural that Zealous would be hostile against the person who had killed Gelgus and destroyed his team. Although they had no wish to harm Akira, and they knew that as hunters, taking revenge on him would be misplaced vengeance, that did not mean they could just forgive him. As such, Zealous wanted to keep his team away from Akira as much as possible. Melchia understood that as well. However, she still threw a question to Zealous. I can understand what you are trying to say, but that means you're going to throw this issue at us, right? So, what's in it for us? If we somehow ended up fighting against each other, you would get involved as well. And I don't believe Akira is willing to take the trouble of differentiating between our teams. I believe you can prevent that from happening. Well, frankly, I don't mind either way. I won't force you to talk to him. Now that it was up to Melchia, she hummed for a bit and glanced at Tatsukawa. Meeting her eyes, Tatsukawa casually stated, "There should be no problems accepting his condition, don't you think? I've also always been wanting to talk to him if I ever get the chance since that day." "Well, if you say so, then I don't mind. Sorry and thank you. Now that's out of the way, let's get started." After both teams completed their preparations, they stormed the transport vehicle and started securing the insides. The team under Tatsukawa and Zealous were slowly fighting through the force that attacked the intercity transport vehicle. Putting aside the level of danger they faced, their job was a simple one. They had to go into each sector of Atlas D-2771. Each sector was protected by powerful force field armor, and they had to check, kill any enemies that they discovered, and secure the sector before moving to the next sector. They had to do this until they've completely secured the whole intercity transport vehicle. Of course, the attackers would all get eliminated through this process. Unlike Akira, who was only there to pick up his cargo, the team under Tatsukawa and Zealous were hired to eliminate the enemies inside Atlas D-2771. Thus, they had to diligently go through each sector and check every nook and cranny to make sure that no enemies were left. The main firepower of the team, like Melchia and Tatsukawa, blitzed through the sectors and destroyed the drone swarm. They did this until it was safe enough for the rest of the team to come in. The rest would sweep through the entire sector, checking to see that they did not miss anything. Afterwards, they would set up a portable barricade to the other hallway as well as do other finer details to secure the sector. Along the route that they had already secured, the rooms were turned into forward bases, where large amounts of medicine were stocked. This was done so that they could quickly heal any injured member of the team. Their systematic process was proceeding extremely smoothly. Tatsukawa was even able to smile casually after fighting a swarm of drones. That was easy, though they're quite numerous, they aren't that strong. Although Melchia also had the leeway to smile back at him, she still warned Tatsukawa. Danger comes soonest when it's most despised, you know? You always get ahead of yourself too quickly. No, I'm doing better lately though. Back then, I only did that because we wouldn't be able to succeed unless I got a bit reckless, you know? Well, I wonder about that. Anyway, it's my job to kick you when you get too carried away, so feel free to do whatever you want. Melchia made a half-teasing smile. Tatsukawa only smiled bitterly in response to what she said and apologized. Sorry, I know I keep causing you trouble. But as I said not too long ago, our team has grown this big and it's mostly thanks to your leadership and management skill. I have no plan to throw that down the drain now. But don't worry. If something goes wrong because of you, we can always start again and rebuild it. Yeah. Melchia slightly blushed. Tatsukawa was basically saying that he did not mind losing the team that they had brought all the way here through their hard work if it was for her sake. If you really mean it, make sure to not drop your guard. I don't mind starting from zero again in a new team, but that would be a lot of work, right? Yeah, you're right. As they proceeded to secure the sector, the rest of the team witnessed Melchia's and Tatsukawa's flirty exchange. Those two were the spearhead of the team, so the rest just exasperatedly ignored them, thinking that it was just as usual. Tatsukawa's team, which had secured 2 sectors and was in the middle of securing the 3rd sector, once again encountered a swarm of the multi-legged drones. Although it was another easy victory for him, Tatsukawa felt something was off. His expression turned solemn. "This is strange, Melchia, what do you think?" "Strange? What's strange?" Even Melchia, who was good at reading between the lines, could not understand what Tatsukawa was talking about. Tatsukawa pondered over what he felt and spoke nonchalantly. "The hallways and rooms are way too pristine. There's no wreckage left by the drones. Isn't that weird?" There was an original escort team that was sent inside to secure Atlas D-2771. Thus, there had to be some signs of battle against the attackers. This meant that there should be pieces of the multi-legged drones on the ground, if not, corpses of the deceased team. However, even after they had already gone this deep, they have not encountered anything like that. As expected, Tatsukawa found that to be worrying. Melchia gave it a bit of thought before explaining a possibility. Including the dummies, there are 12 special sectors designed to house the cube inside Atlas D-2771. Although that is all that they can share with us since we're basically outsiders, I bet the original escort team, the attackers, and the original suppression team affiliated with the transport knew of the correct location of the cube. So, it is possible there are no leftovers around because the battles only occurred near the sector housing the cube. We might still not be there yet. Or at least, that is just my guess. Do you have any other possibilities in mind? Well, that's a good guess, but... Tatsukawa agreed with Melchia that it was a plausible explanation. However, something still felt off and he could not bring himself to accept it like this. His face was still as solemn as before. After a moment of hesitation, he decided to contact Zealous. Normally, the powerful force field armor protecting each sector would prevent them from contacting each other, but since they kept some of the doors open and placed relay devices along the hallways, they were able to reach each other. Tatsukawa gave a short explanation regarding his worry, and then Zealous replied. "The situation is the same for us over here as well. The only ones on the floor are the ones that we have defeated. So far, we've only encountered those weak multi-legged drones. We have not found anything that might be from the original attackers." "I see. By the way, have you encountered Akira yet?" "Nope, but then I'm afraid it is as you feared. Something is indeed not right. Even if Melchia-san's guess is correct, that the attackers were gathered somewhere near the sector where the cube is stored and that these multi-legged drones are only sent for reconnaissance, we've encountered so many of them. Akira and the other hunters who went in before us must have encountered them as well. So, why don't we find any leftovers from them? Does it mean that Akira did not encounter them? That is highly unlikely. If it was only them, then it might still make sense. However, considering Akira had gone in before them, things became extremely suspicious. Basically, there was something that they did not know happening inside the transport vehicle. Both Tatsukawa and Zealous proceeded with more caution. Akira continued going deeper into the transport vehicle. He was following the route to the sector where his stuff was located. Although he encountered multiple swarms of multi-legged drones along his way, he was able to deal with them with no difficulty at all. Akira checked the map, which showed the insides of the transport vehicle and sighed. He had just confirmed that it would take him some time before he could reach Sector B-28, where his cargo was housed. The route they gave us takes a rather long detour, don't you think? It would be great if they can allow us to use a shorter route. After Akira leaked his complaint, Alpha casually stated, "Well, it's understandable considering the situation." The new equipment that Akira had ordered through Sakashita Heavy Industry was all frontline equipment. Naturally, they were expensive and extremely dangerous. Although there was no need to keep them in a secured sector, as secure as where the cube was kept, they were still located inside a sector that was more secure than the other normal sectors. Such a sector was protected by multiple layers of force field armor and was located deep inside the transport vehicle. However, the attackers were also inside the transport vehicle. To prevent them from escaping outside Atlas D-2771, they strengthened the already powerful force field armor. Excluding the A7 cargo sector where Akira entered the transport vehicle, there was no other way to get out of the vehicle. Thus, it effectively locked the attackers inside the transport vehicle. As an outsider, Akira had received limited permission thus, his access was strictly limited. He was not allowed to go into most of the sectors. Furthermore, with strengthened force field armor, some of the sectors were even rendered completely inaccessible. Because of all these factors, although Sector B-28 was easy to reach from another exit, Akira had to go through a rather long route to reach it. After Alpha explained all these points, she then elaborated further. Most probably, the reason why this intercity transport vehicle is not moving is because it's diverting all its energy to fuel its force field armor. It no longer has the capacity to accelerate the transport vehicle. I bet they prioritized supplying the force field armor protecting the cube, meanwhile, making sure that the attackers are trapped inside as a secondary objective. This way, they could send in a strong team later to secure the transport vehicle and resolve the situation. Akira frowned and asked, "That strong team you're talking about? That's not me, right? Even if someone hoped that you would do that for them, you didn't receive such a request. So, let's not worry about it. You just need to pick up your stuff and get out of here as soon as possible." Alpha smiled as she spoke. Hearing that, Akira's frown vanished and was replaced by curved lips. "You're right, let's just get this over with." Akira pushed that thought aside for now and just focused on reaching the cargo sector B-28. As he reached the door to the next sector, he readied his rifle and cautiously opened the door. The power force field armor turned into a layer that was impermeable to information. Thus, when Akira slightly opened the door, information from the inside of that sector started leaking out. It was quickly analyzed and displayed in Akira's enhanced vision. Immediately, he tensed up. There was a signal indicating someone else was nearby. "Who's there?" Akira raised his voice, prompting a reaction from this unknown person. He rested his fingers on the triggers, ready. With his rifles positioned, he waited for the moment this person jumped out from behind the door. If there was no answer, then Akira would consider that signal hostile. The time limit Akira gave before he began to take the initiative to attack was immediate once the door was fully open. But right before the time limit, before the door was fully opened, a voice responded to his question. "Right back at you, who are you? If you're not a part of the attackers, show me your identification code. I will shoot you if you can't do that." Akira glanced at Alpha, so she broadcast using a short-range communication frequency Akira's identification code, which was provided with the map information he had received. A moment later, the other person also sent back their identification code. "It seems like you're not one of the attackers. I will step out, so don't shoot, all right?" "All right." Akira lowered his rifle. After a short pause, as if they were confirming the situation, the other person stepped out from behind the door. Akira was a bit surprised to see it to be a girl that looked around the same age as him. The girl also seemed surprised when she saw Akira. She fearfully asked, "You, by any chance, are you that Akira?" Just to be safe, which Akira is that Akira you're referring to? The one that had a 50 billion Aurum bounty on him? Then yes, I am that Akira. I see. The girl's conflicted expression obviously indicated that she had regretted showing herself. She did not want to meet someone like Akira, who she did not want to get involved with. Meanwhile, Akira was uncertain as to how he should deal with her. Eventually, he came to a decision. To just ignore her and walk past her. That girl's gaze went back and forth between Akira's back and the direction where he came from. A moment later, she loped behind him. The moment she caught up with him, Akira asked, "What? Can I come with you? I don't feel safe going around alone inside the transport vehicle, so..." The girl stated that she originally came here together with another team to secure the transport vehicle. However, they were ambushed by the attackers. She got seriously injured and got separated from the rest of her team. Currently, she was in the middle of escaping. Once she explained her situation, she asked Akira for a favor. "Please don't misunderstand my intentions. I'm not hoping for you to do my job for me. You can just continue to secure the transport vehicle as per your request and profit from it. I will help during the fight, and I won't complain about whatever my share of the reward is, so yeah, it's okay, right?" "Right. Sorry, I don't have the leeway to accept an escort request." "Escort? It's not something like that." The girl looked away and awkwardly smiled. She started blabbering, trying to make excuses, explaining that it was not like she was hoping Akira would be her escort, but her awkward attitude did not convince anyone. Akira simply sighed. If you're going to come along, feel free to do so, but just don't get in my way. Of course. I will never do something like that. Ah, by the way, my name is Rebecca, nice to meet you. Right, I'm Akira. As Akira gave the expected reply to people who just met each other for the first time, Rebecca walked next to Akira and giggled. I know. Yeah, right? Akira bitterly smiled and rushed ahead. In the middle of going through the hallway, Alpha suddenly warned Akira. Akira, I don't mind having that girl come along with you, but don't drop your guard. Don't forget that she's still a stranger that you've just met in a dangerous area. If we get attacked, there's a good chance that she'll use you as a diversion and run away. She might shoot haphazardly when she panics as well. So, keep in mind that she adds an unpredictable factor to this situation. Leaving aside her skill, her equipment is not that bad. So, it would be troublesome to deal with her if it came to it. After Alpha gave her warning, Akira glanced at Rebecca and scanned her equipment. She was using an augmented suit that looked like a leotard with some holes on it. The holes seemed to have some unknown function other than needlessly showing skin. Furthermore, she was using a dress with a large slit, which was her defensive coat. Both were of the old world design. She was also carrying a rather large rifle with her. Rebecca, that equipment, are they old world equipment? Do they look so? At least they look relatively strong. Is that so? Thanks. But they are not. Though they are still pretty powerful. Rebecca then smiled rather smugly. But Akira instead noticed something strange. You said that you fought the attackers and got defeated, right? So, what kind of enemies did you fight? Multi-legged drones equipped with laser cannons. I bet they were brought here by the attackers. Not only are they strong, but there were also billions of them. And your team was defeated although you have that equipment? You were in a team, right? Not alone, right? Judging from the drones that Akira had fought and considering Rebecca's capability to fight based on her equipment, Akira found it to be weird. Especially when he considered her team members to be equipped with the same level of gear. How did such a team get defeated by such weak enemies? Akira inadvertently shot a suspicious glance at Rebecca. But unexpectedly, Rebecca exasperatedly said, well, you did survive even after having a 50 billion Aurum bounty on your head. Your evaluation of our fighting capability is completely off. I'm sure you said that based on your own experience fighting those drones. Was it really that easy of a win for you? At least, I wouldn't say that it was hard. Rebecca sounded a bit offended as she replied. Well, that would explain everything. But don't worry. Although I'm super weak compared to you, I will at least make sure not to get in your way if we get attacked. Okay. Akira thought that he made a mistake there since he ended up saying something that sounded like reproach with a hint of mockery. Thus, he only managed to awkwardly reply with that short okay. Moreover, he had become strong enough for Alpha to admit it. Furthermore, Rebecca did not have Alpha's support. Thus, he reflected on his evaluation and believed that it was awful of him to use the strength of the enemy to evaluate someone else's fighting capability. The sour mood stayed for quite some time before Rebecca opened her mouth. Sorry, I said something rude. You are the one allowing me to come along with you. Though I almost got killed during the fight and I'm worried for the rest of my team as well. So, I guess I'm a little bit more stressed out than I thought. Yes, sorry. But I was being honest when I said that I won't get in your way and help you fight too if we got attacked. Akira lowered his shoulders. Okay, I'm sorry for suspecting you. I think I got a little bit paranoid since I'm only here to pick up my cargo. Instead, I got roped into this troublesome mess. But something in Akira's apology piqued Rebecca's interest. Pick up your cargo? What do you mean? It's exactly as you heard. Alright. I'm not here to secure the transport vehicle. I'm here just to get my stuff. You do know that there are attackers inside this transport vehicle aiming for the cube, right? But you still decided to go to such a dangerous place just to pick up your stuff? Yeah. Seeing exasperation on Rebecca's face, Akira added an extra excuse. I have my reasons, alright? Rebecca found Akira's attitude amusing and giggled. As I thought, your common sense is completely different from us. Oh, shut it. I'll leave you behind if you keep saying something like that. Akira paced his steps faster. Rebecca was still giggling as she lightly jogged to follow next to him. On their way to Cargo Sector B-28, Akira and Rebecca once again encountered a swarm of multi-legged drones. Akira was able to handle it all by himself. Therefore, now that he had an extra helping hand from Rebecca, the swarm did not give them any trouble at all. Rebecca smiled smugly after drilling holes through those multi-legged drones with her laser cannon. So, what do you think? I'm pretty good, right? Yeah, not bad at all, you're pretty strong. Although Akira agreed with her statement, he had a conflicted expression on his face. Naturally, Rebecca noticed it. You don't seem that happy though? I know that I'm not as strong as you, but still. That's not it. I just thought that although you have other allies who are more or less as strong as you still couldn't win against the attackers. You've just only barely managed to escape, right? Or are there other stronger enemies present? Yeah, there were other enemies and they are super strong. Rebecca was visibly flustered. Akira did find that strange and Alpha immediately warned him. Akira, let's forget about the attackers and just focus on getting your new equipment. As for the attackers, we will take them down if they try to attack you. So, there's no need to think too much about them. In the first place, your main goal here has nothing to do with eliminating them. You have a point. His equipment came first, Akira reminded himself. I see, anyway, let's hurry up. Yeah, right. Akira went ahead. Rebecca, who followed him, made a sigh of relief a moment later. After Akira left the hallway, the dead drones once again melted into a pool of green liquid, consuming the metallic wreckage around it. This time, they gathered in two different places and created two female humanoids. Those two glanced in the direction where Akira went and quickly left in another direction. After that, Akira did not encounter any more enemies and safely reached Cargo Sector B-28. He thought that he was finally there and was about to open the door, but for some reason, the door would not open. That's weird. Akira thought he must have made a mistake. Thus, instead of inputting the data through his enhanced vision, he pulled out his information terminal and sent the procedure to open the door through the terminal. But unfortunately, the door only returned an error message and would not open. Akira rubbed his head and mumbled. What the heck is going on? What's wrong? I actually have the permission to open the door, but... So, the door won't open, huh? Well, this is troublesome. The guy who gave you the code to open the door is outside, right? What do you plan to do now? It was not like he could just tear down the door. He would have to return back to those from Brunkel and ask them to assist him to open the door. Akira turned around and knitted his eyebrows. It was not easy to get here. At the very least, he would have to go back and forth once. Now, no one could say how many round trips he would have to make until he could open the door. Naturally, he really did not want to go through all this hassle. That was when Akira thought of something else. Shiro, are you free right now? What is it? Did something happen? After Akira gave a brief explanation, Shiro then confidently said, All right, I'll use you as a proxy to do some investigation. You can pick two choices. Either to tell me a safe entry point to connect or to set up a temporary circumvention route for me to connect. Akira had no idea what Shiro was talking about, but since it would be weird for him to ask Shiro, he confirmed with Alpha first before replying. It's fine. Just connect to me. I'm in. Shiro dove into Akira's Old World connection as an Old World connector and put himself in the system, making it as if he was there. It did not take long for Shiro to notice what was wrong. It says that it can't confirm the code you gave. I did get the permission, though. The code was able to open the door to the other sectors as well. Sector B-28 seems to house really valuable cargo, so its security level is much higher than the other sectors. Even if you have permission to open it, if you're going in together with someone else without permission, the door will not open. Are you there with someone? Yeah, I met this girl named Rebecca on my way here. So, if I leave Rebecca behind, I should be able to open this door, right? No, once that code gives an error, it is rendered invalid. Judging from the identification method, you will either need to return back to have it unlocked or to get another unlock code. What? Akira sounded extremely frustrated. Since it was through telepathic communication, not only his words, but his emotions were also fully conveyed. Shiro, who was on the receiving end of that call, laughed. But you do have the permission, right? Don't worry, I'll open it for you. I'm actually pretty good at this kind of thing, you see. Oh, thank you. Yeah, just leave it to me. Aren't you glad you did not leave me behind and brought me along with you? You can say that again, thanks. In contrast to Shiro's voice, which was full of confidence, Akira's voice sounded a bit wry. Though it was his true feelings. From inside the camping vehicle, Shiro immediately got to work. With this system, it's easier to fake an identification code instead of hacking the locking system. Akira, I'll be borrowing your information gathering device. I need the information used for the identification code to create a fake identification code for that girl, Rebecca. Don't break it, okay? After hearing Akira's short warning, Shiro immediately accessed his information gathering device and prioritized its scanning target at Rebecca. Akira's powerful information gathering device would normally be able to see through under the target's outer clothes and even pass the skin down to the blood vessels and organs. Of course, an expensive augmented suit would be equipped to prevent that. Thus, with a good enough augmented suit, it would be impossible to see all those details. That was why, although Akira's information gathering device could only gather information about Rebecca's appearance, Shiro did not find that to be strange at all. I can't really see the face though. It's needed to make the identification code. Does the sonar sensor not work well because of the force field? I guess I will have to use the camera to get a clear dash. Once Shiro used the information gathering device's camera to see Rebecca's face, he was in absolute shock. Chapter 295, A Certain Girl. Akira, who asked Shiro to help him open the door, believed in Shiro's skills. Akira expected him to open the door with ease. But strangely enough, the door was still locked even after a few minutes and Shiro did not say anything. Shiro, what's wrong? Is it giving you trouble? No, it's fine. I'm opening it now. The door started to slide open. Akira was so happy that with this, he would finally be able to get his frontline equipment. Because of his jovial state, he was not able to notice Shiro's surprise when he called out to him. There were several containers inside the cargo sector B-28. The sector was well made to defend against attacks. The containers were also strong and robust. To guarantee the security of whatever was inside those containers, different containers were only able to be opened by certain people with specific authorization. Moreover, the authorization to open one of these containers was completely separate from the authorization of the transport vehicle. As expected, Akira's equipment was inside the container owned by Sakashida Heavy Industry. He already received the lock code from Kobayashi before coming here. So, if his lock code was rejected again for some reason, he would have to return back to Kagomayama City to report it. Just to be safe, he asked Rebecca to stay next to the door while he went in to pick up his new equipment alone. As Akira was walking through the room, Shiro spoke to him through telepathy. Akira, just a question. How did you end up with that Rebecca girl? She said something about getting separated from the rest of her team and... Akira then explained how he met Rebecca to Shiro. At the end of his explanation, Shiro just muttered, "That I see." That short answer was somehow strongly laced with conflicting emotions. So much so that even the usually emotionally inept Akira was able to notice. Shiro? Is there anything wrong? That it's nothing. But you don't sound like it's nothing. Akira, just focus on getting your new equipment for now. Once you're done with that, I will have you do my request first. You did promise me that after all, right? So go and quickly get your stuff. That's true, alright then. Even Akira knew that Shiro was simply avoiding the subject. Nonetheless, he completely agreed with what Shiro just said. It was only a few more steps before he could finally get his frontline equipment. Therefore, Akira thought that he should hurry up and just do that before anything bad happens. As Akira stood in front of the indicated container, he carefully opened the door. There were 4 large-sized cases inside the container. Those were his new equipment. His mouth curled up into a smile. His new equipment was finally within reach. Akira tried to open the case, but it did not open. Excuse me? Akira was flustered. He thought the case should open normally. He never heard that the cases needed some kind of identification code to open. Of course, Shiro, who was looking at him through Akira's information-gathering device, noticed Akira's reaction and found it to be weird. Akira, what's wrong? The case won't open. Well, that's normal. Although they are your new equipment, to be more precise, they are still Sakashita Heavy Industries cargo, set to be delivered to you. Since your authorization is limited to just transporting the cargo in place of the transport company, you don't have the permission to open it. That's why, Akira thought back upon his conversation with Kobayashi and finally understood what Kobayashi meant back then as the latter wryly smiled. Don't worry, if you bring them to me, I can open them for you. Really? Can't you open it from there? You were able to open the door remotely. I can, but I don't want to if it can be helped. It might cause trouble later, you see. Shiro refused and gave Akira his reasoning. The inside of any intercity transport vehicle was basically treated as a part of a city, and at last D-2771 was no exception. The whole space inside the transport vehicle was treated like the lower district. Meanwhile, special locations like where the cube was stored were being treated like the upper district. Normally, someone like Akira would never be allowed to enter those areas. The reason why Akira was able to get authorization this time was most likely because of Sakashita Heavy Industries' influence. That frontline equipment was Sakashita Heavy Industries' reward to Akira after repelling the nationalists. Therefore, the longer those equipment could not be handed off to Akira, the greater the chance that it might damage Sakashita's reputation. This was the main driving force that eventually allowed Akira to be granted special authorization to enter this area. But as expected, his permission only went as far as to enter the transport vehicle, nothing more. Basically, he was not able to receive permission to open the cases that housed his frontline equipment. This also meant that he was not able to enter areas treated as a part of the inner wall. Giving such authorization meant being his guarantor as well, and there was no reason for Sakashita Heavy Industry to go that far for him. If Akira opened the cases in this situation, there was a good chance that the transport vehicle's security system would attack him. For someone who had even picked a fight against the Lion Steel Company and just received frontline equipment, the transport vehicle's security system could not afford to underestimate his power. In the worst-case scenario, he might be suspected of trying to get the cube as well. That was why they did not want Akira to open the cases inside the transport vehicle. They wanted to avoid that possibility at all costs. After Shiro explained, Akira finally relented. I see, fine. After being told as much, Akira did not have any other choice but to step back. He finally understood why people recognized him as that Akira. Shiro then added, "To be honest, I was surprised that you even got the authorization to enter Atlas D-2771. The guy who provided you with that authorization, Kobayashi, was it again? He must be one hell of a guy. He also somehow managed to get you ammo and medicine during your fight with Lion Steel. Do you have a point?" Akira inadvertently made a wry smile. He felt conflicted since he had to admit that he was indeed often helped by Kobayashi's amazing skill. However, he was also often thrown into trouble thanks to that man. And this time, Akira was here because of Kobayashi. Even now, he could not tell if it was a fortunate situation or if he got thrown into another mess again. It could even be both. Nonetheless, he decided to stop worrying about it for now and just kept moving forward. Akira used the case's mobile function to set it to follow him. 4 legs unfolded out from the case, which had wheels equipped on the end of each leg. The cases then formed a small group as they lined up behind Akira. He was a bit entertained when he saw them trailing behind him as he walked back to the door into the sector where Rebecca was waiting. Rebecca squinted her eyes and stared at the 4 cases following Akira. "Are those yours? What's inside them? Don't tell me it's the cube." Rebecca said so in a light, joking manner, so Akira replied with a light smile. "Not even close, they're just my new equipment." "Your equipment? That does sound super strong. Can I take a peek?" Sorry, due to certain reasons, I can't open them here. Ah, I see. That's too bad. Well, let's put that aside for now and just get out of here. During their casual exchange, Rebecca did not think Akira was lying and just let the matter slide. Even so, Akira found Rebecca's reaction a bit strange. However, since it was just a faint feeling and Alpha did not say anything, he thought that there was no need to worry about it. He tried to open the door, but just like last time, the door would not open, which really surprised him. Again? What's going on here? Akira sighed and called Shiro. Shiro, the door won't open again, can you check it? Sure, wait for a sec. You're not receiving an error from the identification code. It's an emergency lock. The danger level of the area around that place went up. What's going on? Basically, there's an ongoing battle behind that door. Akira inadvertently looked at the door. Zealous was running through the hallway, trying to catch those who attacked the transport vehicle while exchanging shots. He was against two people. Both were girls with augmented suits that looked like a leotard, covered by a defensive coat that looked like a dress. Both were carrying laser cannons. They were not that strong, but they kept running away. Since they were neither that fast nor that powerful, Zealous decided to pursue them. Bullets and laser beams flew from both sides, filling the narrow hallway. Normal hunters and monsters would get blown to pieces by now. But both sides managed to put up a good fight. They evaded each other's attacks, deflecting the laser with force field armor or blocking the bullets by temporarily increasing the power output of the defensive coat's force field armor. Naturally, the battle ended in Zealous victory. He was mostly unharmed as well. He had managed to tear off the enemy's arm, which was far from fatal. When they approached a turn along the hallway, they managed to escape and hide from him. Zealous knitted his eyebrows. They got away again, huh? I pursued them quite far from my main group. This is bad. Did I get baited to come here alone? Zealous team encountered these enemies when they were trying to secure a new cargo sector. However, those that faced them were not the main force. They were the team left behind to secure and reinforce the conquered sectors. With a wide gap in firepower, the team was able to barely hold their position thanks to the walls and other structures they had set up. It was only when the main force arrived did they manage to quickly seize the upper hand and repelled the attackers. Afterwards, the main force went to pursue the attackers as they tried to flee. However, Zealous team quickly lost the upper hand the moment they pursued the attackers to a different cargo sector. This sector was not secured yet, which meant that they did not know where the attackers might try to ambush them. Unlike the multi-legged drones, which seemed to have been sent for reconnaissance, the attackers were pretty strong. To prevent an ambush and to secure an escape route, it was of great importance that they secured the hallway first. However, that meant dividing up their force. If the attackers were slightly stronger, Zealous would have decided to retreat. Unfortunately, the enemies were not that strong, which caused Zealous to insist on the pursuit. As the pursuit continued, Zealous got baited to go deeper inside the transport vehicle. Eventually, the rest of his men were assigned to secure the hallway while he was left alone to pursue the enemies. Zealous looked down on the floor. The arm that he had shot off the attackers was oozing green liquid. This blood. Is it recovery medicine? Well, it's true that replacing blood with medicine would greatly increase fighting capability. But it's impossible to reconfigure the body to produce medicine instead of blood. It would cause a lot of trouble in everyday life. They really put everything they had into this attack, huh? Well, they are trying to get the cube by attacking an intercity transport vehicle, so I guess it's not that surprising that they would go this far. That was when suddenly a call from his men reached him. Zealous, how's our situation over there? Not good. They just got away from me again. Should we send some people over? No. Make sure that we have an escape route. We ended up overextending, creating a rather long route through sectors that have not been secured yet due to my command. I'm sure that it's not easy, but it would be bad if we don't have a safe place to retreat to in case something bad happens. I'm seriously counting on you, alright? Roger that. Don't get too reckless, yeah? Although they were speaking casually, it was clear that they deeply trusted each other. Zealous then continued the pursuit. According to his information-gathering device, The enemies were just waiting on the other side of the turn, which Zealous found weird. Again, they're not just simply running away. They're just keeping their distance from me as if to lure me. That location doesn't seem like an advantageous area to fight me. They don't seem to be waiting for reinforcement either, so what exactly are they doing? Zealous' mind wandered to one vague term: high-functioning people. Zealous did find that term strange, but for some reason, it was compellingly convincing. He shook that off his mind and ran through the hallway to face the enemies not too far away from the corner. Suddenly, a few dozen flat objects flew out from behind the corner. These boards were able to reflect images as if it was made of glass. Zealous quickly reacted by shooting at them as he quickly threw a smoke grenade at the corner. A moment later, the attackers shot lasers from behind the corner. Normally, these lasers would not be able to make a turn and hit Zealous, but that was where these plates came in. Reflecting off the plate's surface, they could make a turn and head towards Zealous. Zealous, who had already expected this attack, destroyed some of the plates before the laser beam was shot. Using the gaps he created, he avoided the incoming beams. He then pushed forward, past the corner, and shot at the enemies. They quickly reacted to aim their cannons at him. However, the smoke grenade that Zealous had thrown beforehand already bounced off the corner, landed close to their feet, and finally started releasing smoke. The smoke was infused with particles to counter energy weapons. It was able to effectively disperse and damp the laser cannon, greatly reducing its firepower. It was to the point where even if Zealous got hit, it would not be able to deal that much damage. Since the smoke only affected a limited area, normally, enemies could just step back out of the affected area while keeping their distance. Thus, it was meaningless to use such smoke grenades from afar. However, in an enclosed space like this where they were in close range, the smoke was highly effective. Although the effects would only linger for a few seconds, it was enough to decide the battle. Zealous was certain that he had already won. You had spent too much effort adjusting your shots with the reflecting plates that you've made the mistake of adjusting your distance from me. This will be your end. Zealous stood still and released a relentless assault. He stood with a stance that prevented him from evading as they exchanged an intense barrage. The result for both parties greatly differed. Zealous got a slight burn on his cheek, while the enemies did not even retain their original shape. Zealous knew that the medicine inside their blood could bring them back from death. That was why he executed such a risky move. It was to ensure that his enemies were completely obliterated. Zealous lowered his rifle and sighed. Pieces of the enemies were scattered on the ground. It was impossible to reconstruct their original form from such a state. Alright, that should do it. You really gave me a hard time. Zealous pinched off the scorched skin on his cheek and applied medicine paste to the area. Once he was done, he called his team. But he suddenly noticed a sudden change in his radar. It was at the end of the hallway. Normally, Zealous would have readied himself and not gotten flustered, but the location completely surprised him. No way. The signals came from behind. To be more precise, it was from the hallway, behind the corner where Zealous had just come from a moment ago. This completely caught him off guard. There should be no enemy there. Still, Zealous managed to quickly react by taking a shooting stance. The enemies were behind the corner, so he did not have a clear sight of them. Worse, he had used most of his ammo to make sure that the previous two enemies were dead for good. Thus, he was also worried about his ammo reserve. With the signals quickly heading towards him, he had no time to reload. Thus, instead of relying on his rifle, he put them back and unsheathed his blade before running toward the corner. Zealous knew that at this rate, they would end up engaging at the corner, in close combat. Therefore, he could just use his blade in that range and finish up his enemies. And as he had predicted, they did make contact at the corner. Wadash! As Zealous swung down his blade, his face was filled with shock. The enemy was a huge bundle of flesh, which completely blocked the hallway. Judging from the size of the signal, Zealous had expected it to be something close to humanoid. However, this huge fleshy mess of a monster in front of him caught him off guard. Naturally, the monster did not let any opening get unexploited and lunged to bite Zealous. The wide-open jaw clamped hard, only to take out a piece of air. Zealous narrowly jumped away. He managed to use the opening of its jaw being close to launch a strike, slicing the monster cleanly into two. The carcass simply rolled over on the floor without any further response. Zealous did not stop there and quickly proceeded through the hallway. That was too weak. So, its frightening appearance is just for show, huh? But what the heck with its size? The signal was not that huge. Just what in the world? As questions regarding the current situation ran in his head, the calm hunter part of him urged him to hurry up. Putting that aside, he was flanked in a one-way hallway with no branches. His team was left behind to secure the hallway. They should have prevented this from happening. Even so, he got flanked. This meant that the monster had broken through the secured hallway. He just contacted his men a moment ago. Thus, there was fear of the monster killing his men so fast that they could not even afford the time to plead for help. If the monster broke through the secured hallway without killing his men, there was a good chance that his men were still alive. Zealous prayed for the safety of his men as he hurried back to his men. If they were still alive, he might still be able to save them. Zealous men were busy securing the hallway. They were surprised when they saw Zealous running at them. However, Zealous did not notice their bewilderment as he shouted, "How is the situation?" "Nothing in particular over here." What? Zello and his men exchanged a confused look. "Zealous, what just happened?" Wait for a sec. "So, what exactly was that?" His men were fine. They did not even encounter that huge monster in the first place. Zealous, who finally understood that, immediately turned solemn. He realized how bad the situation was. "Everyone, retreat back to Sector A7. "What? We're pulling that far back? Are we going to just abandon the sector that we have secured? We will have to redo them again, you know." "That's fine. Just forget about the sectors that we have secured. Think of them as unsecured sectors. I will tell you the reason later. Just get moving. Now." With that one order, everyone's expression immediately turned serious. Although they still did not understand why Zealous would give out such an order, they knew that something must have happened. In other words, he had no other choice but to give such an order. They placed their trust in Zealous and they immediately started retreating. With that, Zealous took his men and pulled out of the area. The monster that Zealous had sliced into two and left behind started shrinking. When it had stopped shrinking, it returned back to its original form. It was the arm that Zealous had shot off the humanoid enemies a moment ago. Akira was rubbing his head in front of the locked door. Due to the ongoing battle nearby, the warehouse was put on emergency lockdown. Akira thought that it might be the security team fighting against the attackers, which was understandable. He did not mind joining the fight, but in order to do so, he would have to open the door in front of him first. However, because of that battle, the door could not be opened. "Shiro, can you do something about this?" Even if you ask, this lock is no longer a simple identification lock. Akira frowned after hearing what he had said. It seems like Shiro could not help him this time. In the worst-case scenario, he would be locked inside this sector for some time. Akira sighed and mumbled, "Well, this sucks." That was when Rebecca suddenly asked, "You can't open the door?" "Yeah, it seems like it's locked because there's an ongoing fight occurring somewhere nearby." "I see. In that case, how about we go out through the wall instead of the hallway? There's actually an exit right over there." "Is that even possible?" "Is it not? Did the operator say so?" Akira raised his eyebrows. He did not expect her to say something like that. Seeing how he reacted, Rebecca frowned and apologetically said, You just said that the door won't open because there is a battle nearby, so I just concluded there must be someone who told you that. So, that means, you must be in contact with an operator or something to open the doors. Sorry, were you trying to hide it?" Judging from what she said, Rebecca noticed that he was talking to someone. However, it seemed like she was still unaware of him being an old-world connector. After all, there were information-gathering devices that could access the old-world domain, and Akira had heard hunters near the front line had these kinds of information-gathering devices. Thus, he believed Rebecca must have assumed that he had one and calmed down. Right, just keep it a secret." "But, so then, is it not possible to get outside the transport vehicle?" Shiro, how is it? Akira threw that question just to at least hear Shiro's opinion, but there was no reply. Shiro, alright, let's try that. Shiro paused for a bit before finally answering. Akira stood in front of the door that led outside the transport vehicle. Shiro, I'm already in front of the door. I'm on my way there, just wait for a sec. I'm here, opening the door now. The door to the outside slowly slid open. That door was for human use and not to transport cargo, thus, it was a relatively small door. Still, it was big enough for Akira and his cases to pass through. The door that opened up by falling forward turned into a pathway to the outside. Akira stood on that door and extended both of his arms forward. The multi-legged cases that were following behind him up until now leapt forward and stacked themselves on top of his arms. What Akira needed to do now was just to jump off with his cases. Although it was from a height that might even be taller than that of a building, it was not a problem at all for the current Akira. When he peeked down, Shiro already moved the camping vehicle there as he was looking up, waiting for him. Rebecca, just to be safe, you can jump on your own, right? If not, we can jump together. I'm okay. Alright, I'll be going first then. Akira jumped off, but on his way down, he passed by Shiro, who was traveling up. As soon as Akira landed, he immediately looked up. Shiro jumped up to where Akira was a moment ago using the power of his augmented suit. Rebecca could not hide her shock the moment she saw Shiro suddenly appear in front of him. Shiro! Haruka! Shiro smiled happily toward the girl who named herself Rebecca in front of Akira. No matter how much special treatment Sakashita Heavy Industry had given Shiro, opening an intercity transport vehicle door to the outside was a huge crime. After all, it created a security vulnerability to the cube. In the worst-case scenario, Sakashita Heavy Industry might completely see him as an enemy. Even so, Shiro still did it. It was for the sake of rescuing his precious friend, even if it meant picking a fight against the 5 largest corporations of the Eastern District. The thought that he had finally made it was fully expressed on his face. Meanwhile, Haruka's expression was one mixed with surprise and struggle. Shiro, why are you here? You should be in Sakashita's research facility. Yeah, I slipped out. Haruka, who understood what such an act meant, was aghast. What do you think you are, dash? I'm here to rescue you. Hearing those words, Haruka was taken aback. She would never imagine that Shiro would go this far for her sake. And I can say the same thing to you too. Why are you here? How did you get out of that place? No, that doesn't matter now. Since you're already here, I'll take care of the rest. So let's go. Shiro extended his hand to Haruka. Her expression was filled with happiness as she extended her hand to reach out for his. But she suddenly stopped as her expression started to turn dark. Shiro believed that Haruka was just getting worried, so he firmly declared, "It'll be alright. Although I look like this, I'm actually pretty amazing. I will handle the rest. Don't worry. Trust me." However, Haruka could still not accept his hand. She managed to make a small and weak smile before she replied to Shiro. "Shiro, thank you, I'm really happy, I really am." Her expression then turned forlorn. "That I'm sorry." Haruka then kicked Shiro off the platform. Shiro had waged everything to come here to rescue her. The rejection hit him hard. His face turned sorrowful as he fell. "Haruka? Why?" Haruka was watching Shiro fall with an equally mournful expression. Seeing Shiro get kicked off the platform and show no signs of preparing to land, Akira flusteredly caught him. "Shiro, what are you doing?" Akira's confused voice pulled Shiro out from the shock of his own powerlessness, and emotion took over his body. He thought that he should still be able to make it. Thus, he immediately tried to chase her. He quickly got off Akira's arms, but the moment his feet landed on the ground, he stopped. "In terms of strength, I am no match against her. It will be impossible for me to make her talk with force. I would only get kicked down again if I tried." Shiro gritted his teeth as he cursed his own powerlessness. However, he quickly realized that there was someone who could do that for him. "Akira, get back to her. Please." "Get back? I don't know what's going on here, but she's going to jump down, no?" Akira said so and looked at Haruka. She was standing on top of the door, gazing down at Shiro. She then turned around, went back into the transport vehicle, and closed the door. Akira tilted his head in confusion. That was when the ground suddenly started to tremble. It was from the transport vehicle revving up its engine. Whoa, what the heck? Akira was still confused by the rapid sudden change of events. Shiro suddenly grabbed Akira's shoulder and shook him. Akira, just go and get back to her. Otherwise, Haruka will be gone. Haruka? Isn't that girl Rebecca Dash? That doesn't matter. Just go? I don't have the time to explain everything right now. Akira was about to be spurred to action as Shiro kept hurrying him up like that, but Alpha stopped him with a solemn expression. Akira, your equipment is more important. Thanks to that, Akira was reminded of his equipment and was able to regain his calm. Shiro, open the cases first. I'm here to get them in the first place. And make sure to tell me the rest later. Like I said, I don't have the time dash. Akira turned and glared at him. My equipment first. With that, Shiro finally calmed down. He then glared back at Akira and asked, You'll do my request first once your business here is done, right? That's the promise. And I'm here to get my equipment. I have the cases, but not what is inside. If you won't open them here, I will have to go back to Kagomayama City first to open them. I'll only do your request after that. Shiro glared hard at him, but Akira was unfazed. And also, although I will prioritize your request, it's not like I'm willing to do just about anything without any information. If you want me to properly fulfill your request, you should properly explain everything to me first. In the middle of them speaking, at last D-2771 started to move slowly. Shiro buckled under the pressure and relented. The camping vehicle started to accelerate under Shiro's remote control, to race after at last D-2771. Meanwhile, Shiro did as he was told. I'll open the cases and give you an explanation while we chase that transport vehicle. Get her now. Akira and Shiro immediately jumped into the camping vehicle. After Haruka returned back inside the transport vehicle, her expression was dark. It was deeply clouded by the feeling of guilt for rejecting Shiro. She reminded herself of her duty and gave an order to the rest of her men. Change of plans. We're not going to wait until the retrieval team is here. We're going now. With that order, the transport vehicle that was stopped up until now started to move. It was the proof that Haruka had seized complete control of the at last D-2771. Shiro, how did he know that I was here? Was he sent by Sakashita Heavy Industry? If he came here because he received information from Sakashita Heavy Industry, Sakashita would send their army here too. Haruka then sighed and mumbled. Shiro, why are you here? At this timing? Shiro was here to rescue her, and Haruka was equally happy and sad at the same time because of his sentiments. Chapter 296, Shiro's Objective. The camping vehicle was moving as fast as the transport vehicle. Inside it, Akira and Shiro immediately started working on opening the cases. I'll tell you this beforehand, they won't open right away. They are cases used to secure frontline equipment after all. It's obvious that they're locked extremely securely to protect the dangerous objects inside them. Akira nodded. He knew that Shiro wanted to chase after Hikaru as soon as possible. Therefore, he had no reason to suspect Shiro would spare any effort in opening these cases. Shiro put his hand on one of the cases. You might think that I'm not doing anything here, but I'm properly working hard to open these cases. So don't complain, okay? Akira nodded again. They both went silent for a few seconds. Shiro still had one of his hands on top of the case as he was staring at it. Although he seemed to be doing nothing from the outside, it was obvious from his expression that he was doing whatever he could to open the case as fast as he could. That I'll give you a light explanation while I have the chance. Everything that I'm going to say from here on out is all just my guess. There's no guarantee that they are correct. But my thoughts are based on my own investigation. So, I believe it is accurate. That girl is Haruka. Rebecca is just a fake name. Well, Haruka might also be a fake name, but, basically, my objective is to rescue her. Shiro then stopped. Akira waited for him to continue. Seeing that, Shiro slowly knitted his eyebrows. Akira, is that not enough? Akira's face turned stern. That doesn't explain anything to me. So, you want to save Rebecca? Well, it's Haruka, right? But it doesn't seem like she wants to be saved though? Didn't she kick you down back there? Shiro's face also turned stern. I don't understand why she did that. She might not believe me. But I am absolutely serious. I just want to rescue her, and I have prepared myself to be able to negotiate even against the Big Five. Even if that doesn't work, I can at least take her with me and go on the run. Though, looks like she still does not trust me. I see, so then what should I do after I get back inside Atlas? Should I take her here by force? No, I want to try to convince Haruka through your information terminal. That's why I want you to get close enough to her. Ah, I see. Is that good enough? Akira thought for a bit before shaking his head. No, as I thought, you should explain to me more. What exactly do you mean by rescuing her? And you did say something about going on the run from the Big Five companies, so who exactly is she? And you want to save her from what exactly? That I'll be honest, it's better if you don't know. Once you know, you won't be able to claim you were acting unaware of the situation. Let me ask you this question instead. Is it going to be a situation where people would accept it if I said, I don't know? At least, it's easier for you to say you don't know when you really don't. At the very least, you would be able to claim that you got tricked by me. I know that I'm roping you into my own issues when I hired you, but if you don't know, you can at least make an excuse. You can even claim that you did it because I am an agent from Sakashita Heavy Industry. But once I tell you this, you won't be able to use that excuse anymore. Are you sure you're fine with that? As expected, Akira hesitated. But he immediately made his decision and said with a serious tone, just tell me already. Akira did not feel like he owed Shiro that much, at least, not enough to warrant him to do anything Shiro asked without knowing anything. Likewise, to engage in a fight while ignoring the doubts festering in him which came from that lack of information. Alpha was the only one that Akira would go that far for. So, with that resolve, he told Shiro to just tell him. With that, Shiro finally gave up. Alright, but promise me two things. First, don't tell Tsukasada about what I'm going to tell you, and second, you will still help me no matter what you're going to hear from here on out. I won't tell Tsukasada, I can promise you that. But I can't promise you that I will still help you no matter what. I don't know what exactly you want me to do, and I don't have the obligation to do whatever you ask me to. After all, I will not kill myself even if you ask me to. Shiro hesitated. There was no guarantee that Akira would still help him after he revealed everything to Akira. However, Shiro knew that Akira would not help him unless he explained. Likewise, even if he told Akira, the worst that would happen was for Akira to not help him. He did not believe Akira would turn hostile against him. Even though they had not worked together for long, from the time Shiro had spent with him, he knew him well enough to know Akira would not cross that line. Thus, he finally made his decision. Alright, that's good enough. Akira, I won't take responsibility even if you say that it's better for you not to know afterwards, okay? I did warn you after all. As the mood suddenly turned heavy, Akira thought that Shiro would say something very important and inadvertently nodded. And so, Shiro went to the main subject. This is just my guess, but there's a good chance that Haruka is a part of the Rebuild Research Laboratory. Although I don't know for sure if she's one of the test subjects or the researchers, my bet is that she is the former. Shiro first met her inside the virtual space within the Old World domain. He was in the middle of strict training at that time, to polish his skills as an Old World connector. When he was training there day in and day out, he found Haruka inside one of the Old World domain's virtual spaces that he was connected to by pure coincidence. At first, Haruka would not tell Shiro anything, not even her name. During their exchanges, they looked at each other with suspicion. Still, for Shiro, who was in the middle of such grueling training, being able to talk with someone from outside Sakashita Heavy Industries facility was like an oasis in the middle of a desert. Haruka's common sense was slightly abnormal, as was Shiro's. He had spent all his life inside a strictly secured facility that was isolated from the outside world. Thus, it was normal for his common sense to be abnormal compared to someone from the Eastern District. Both of them were old-world connectors, so Shiro thought that Haruka was also in a similar situation as he was. In the middle of their jam-packed schedule, they made sure that they would have the time to meet up in that virtual space. There, they discussed about their skills as old-world connectors, taught each other, and praised each other. As time flew by, their relationship deepened. The closer they got, the more they wanted to know about each other. But it was not like they could simply confess their personal information to each other. Thus, what they did was use their skills as old-world connectors to investigate each other. It could also be interpreted as them wanting to know the other person's real identity before they considered whether to continue their relationship or not. The desire to know Haruka more greatly fueled Shiro's motivation. He put more effort into his training and became so skilled that it even surprised the staff of Sakashita Heavy Industry. This eventually led to the preferential treatment that he had been receiving. Even so, Shiro was the first one to crack, as he was the first to open up about his personal information to Haruka. The first one who suggested trying to investigate each other was Haruka. Now that I think about it, I bet she thought that there was no way I would be able to gather any information about her. Well, it was indeed not easy. The reason why I was able to get her personal information was mostly because of luck. Haruka was connecting to that virtual space from a rebuild research laboratory. I bet it was from a renovated facility in the middle of some ruin. Shiro then heaved a big sigh. I thought that she was inside a facility owned by one of the big 5 corporations, just like me. I never thought that it was from the rebuild research laboratory. It was a huge shock for me at that time. I immediately completely erased that information from Sakashita Heavy Industries' log. If they found out about her, her life would be in danger. Shiro's expression then turned serious as he turned to Akira. My original request was to ask you to help me sneak into the rebuild research laboratory and rescue Haruka from that place. I have the confidence if it is for hacking or something similar, but that alone won't be enough. I need someone who can fight against those guarding that place. That is also why I stocked up on Chrome. I thought hunters who are strong enough and can be trusted with such information cannot be paid only by Aurum. Shiro let out a small sigh. But well, in the end, I had no other choice but to use all my Chrome to get away from hammers. After that, when I was looking for someone that I might be able to hire to accomplish my goal with my emergency Aurum, I found you, Akira. After he finished his story, Shiro then stated to Akira in a serious tone. There, I've told you everything. Now that you know everything, I will have you help me. HM? Sure. Although Akira gave his affirmation, he said it too nonchalantly. Shiro, who did not expect such a response, was caught by surprise. Wait, what? What is with that reaction? Were you even listening to my story? Akira winced back from Shiro's sudden outburst, but it was not from fear. He was simply weirded out by that outburst. It's fine. I did properly listen to your story. Basically, you want to save your friend who is trapped inside a dangerous place, right? Well, if you put it that way, that's true. But your reaction is just wrong, you know? Do you have a heart made of steel or something? No wonder you have no problem picking a fight with the Lion Steel Company. Shiro exasperatedly sighed. Nonetheless, Akira's bold response did help him to calm down. That was just as he managed to open the first case. Inside it was an augmented suit. Shiro shot a serious gaze at Akira, who just saw what he did. I opened the first case. Akira, I'm sorry, but as expected it will take some time for me to open all the cases. Haruka will get away in that atlas if you wait for me to finish opening all the cases. So please. Shiro lowered his head to Akira, who gave a light smile and casually said, All right, make sure to open the rest before I'm back, okay? Of course. Akira, thank you, I'm counting on you. Shiro firmly thanked Akira. He was completely shocked and was thrown into disarray when Haruka rejected him, but he was fine now. Although at last D-2771 could not quickly gain speed due to its size, its maximum speed was still above the camping vehicle. Due to their conversation, they were a bit late in starting their pursuit. Currently, the camping vehicle was already running parallel to the very last section of the transport vehicle. Akira leapt from the camping vehicle's rooftop and landed on the side of the transport vehicle. He then started walking up the wall to the rooftop of the transport vehicle. Alpha, I know that we're in a hurry, but isn't it better if I put on that augmented suit? Although he finally got his frontline equipment, he was still not using them. It's better like this. After all, we don't have the time for me to modify that augmented suit. Moreover, our objective is to get close enough to that girl so that Shiro can talk to her. Coming here with powerful equipment would only needlessly make her feel uneasy. You have a point. Akira eventually reached the rooftop. He then looked around for a door to get inside the transport vehicle. But for some reason he could not find it anywhere. Shiro, I'm fine with searching for Haruka inside the transport vehicle, but I don't see any gates to get in. Can you find me a way in? Sure, wait for a sec. That gate would be. No luck, the control pattern has been changed, I'll look for another way in. Wait, didn't you open a similar door before? It's not that simple. I'm in a hurry right now, so I don't have the time to explain it to you. Now that I think about it, Haruka is also an old world connector, right? Can't you contact her through telepathy too? No, it's not that simple. If I can do that, I would have done that by now. I see, that there's a hatch about 300 meters away from you. Try that hatch first, if that doesn't work, I will look for another door. Roger that. Akira followed Shiro's instructions as he walked on top of Atlas. Although he still had some questions, he thought that it would be bad to sour Shiro's mood even more. Thus, he threw his questions to Alpha instead. Alpha, what do you think I should do to find Haruka? I'm sure that without trying to find her, once she notices that you're around, she'll come to you. After all, from her point of view, a dangerous person that she had just expelled from the transport vehicle had returned. Expelled? What do you mean? Was I expelled from the transport vehicle by Haruka? Yes. My guess is that back then, she had done something to that door so that someone from the outside could easily open it. Why would she do that? She doesn't want you to get in her way of stealing the cube. Akira raised his eyebrows. Wait for a sec, so she is the one that attacked the transport vehicle? Yep, although it's just my guess. She is not just one of the attackers, I am willing to bet she's actually the leader of the attackers. Why didn't you tell me? You won't be able to hide it. You couldn't even pretend that you didn't know something, right? If she noticed that you know about her real identity, she might stop pretending to be someone from the team trying to secure Atlas. To avoid unnecessary hostility from her, I was not able to tell you. It's not like she's your enemy, so there's no need to fight her when there's no real reason to. Although Akira completely understood Alpha's point, he still could not help but to make a complicated expression. But still, she's one of the attackers, right? Yes. But she is not your enemy. You are only here to pick up your equipment. You never accepted any request that needed you to fight the attackers. So, there is no reason for you to pick a fight with her. Though it's true that she is the one who sent those multi-legged drones to attack you, it would be strange if you don't get attacked there instead, right? Furthermore, she did help you fight too afterwards. I thought that it was better to let her know that you're not worth the problem so she would let you finish your business there and get out of the transport vehicle as soon as possible. I believe you can at least understand that much, right? Yeah, I guess you're right. Although Akira was still displeased with what had happened, at the moment, he was working for Shiro. Thus, he decided to focus on the task at hand for now. Inside the transport vehicle which had suddenly started moving, Zealous' team was faced with an intense battle as they were slowly pulling back. Zealous, who was standing right at the front, spearheading the team, shouted to his comm, "Don't chase them too deep. Focus on pulling back. We're retreating to Sector A7. Their enemies were small girls with weapons. These girls had the same faces and they looked exactly the same as the ones Zealous had killed before he called for a retreat. Everything from their fighting capability, equipment, and green blood were all the same. At that time, Zealous was fighting them while they were running away from him. However, this time, they were the ones pressing an assault on his team. All of them had flat, emotionless eyes. Even when their friends got killed or blasted to pieces, they did not show any reaction. Their emotionless faces were ominous and creepy. All of these girls had this exact look, And all of them looked like Haruka. The hallway was filled with the laser beams released from the girls' laser cannons. Zealous team used the portable walls that they had installed to secure each sector, to block the lasers as they were slowly pulling back. Whenever Zealous team found even the smallest opening, with Zealous as the main firepower, they would quickly attack and decimate those that were open. However, they were still feeling the heat from the assault. No matter how many they took out, the enemies kept coming without an end in sight. Their numbers were not reducing at all. After Zealous took out a nearby enemy, he knitted his eyebrows and turned toward his men. "How's the situation?" "We have 3 badly injured, but everyone is still alive. We also have secured a route to retreat back to cargo sector A7. The badly injured are prioritized to retreat first." Zealous' stern expression relaxed after he heard that report. "All right then, just continue retreating. No need to worry about your ammo. Make sure to stay in the hallway until we can regroup at cargo sector A7. Never try to set up a barricade inside a room even if the fight gets tough. Make sure that everyone understands it." "Of course. After all, we've investigated where exactly these girls came from. It turns out that they were coming out from the rooms that we had secured beforehand." "Just how exactly did they get in there?" Suddenly, another man spoke with a stern look. "I bet they were hiding. But we made sure to sweep the sectors when we had secured, you know? I bet we just checked if there's someone inside, right? I witnessed it myself, you know? The moment when they formed from a locker. I'm not saying that they came out from inside the locker, but the whole locker itself turned into one of these things." Hearing that fantasy-like statement from his friend, the other guy knitted his eyebrows and exclaimed, "The heck are you even talking about?" But Zealous looked convinced. "I see, so that's why. They were disguised as a part of the transport vehicle. You gotta be joking with me? It would be great if it is really just a joke though. Let's go." Zealous and his men were slowly pulling back from the front. But the number of enemies did not go down at all. They were shot down and sliced to pieces, drowning the floor in a puddle of green liquid. However, the enemies behind just ignored the puddle and kept charging forward. In the middle of battle, Zealous noticed the connection between the girls. "I see now, so that's it." The reason why Zealous called for a retreat was because he was worried that there were secret routes inside the transport vehicle. When Zealous was attacked by that large monster, he was worried whether his men had the route to retreat secured. After all, that monster attacked him from somewhere supposed to be secured. But his men were safe. Which could only mean that the monster suddenly appeared in between the small opening between where his men were posted and him. Out of all the possibilities that he had thought of, he concluded that there must have been a secret route leading to where it had appeared. If there were indeed secret routes inside the transport vehicle, then it was too naive to think that the sectors that they had secured were really safe. Fearful of getting ambushed through such secret routes, he decided to redo everything with the assumption that there were secret routes. Thus, he called all his men back to cargo sector A7. However, if the enemies were disguising themselves as part of the transport vehicle, then even if there were no secret routes, it would not be strange for them to suddenly appear out of nowhere. Moreover, Zealous knew that no human could do this. This meant that the opponents he was fighting against were monsters taking human form. His thoughts then reached the next conclusion. The opponents were biological monsters taking the form of a little girl. That they were pumped full of powerful medicine. The reason why they were so tenacious and powerful was because of the medicine. It was also the reason why they kept coming back up even after he had already killed several of them. That was also the reason why they could not find corpses or any leftovers from the team that stormed the transport vehicle beforehand. It was because these monsters ate them. Although it was nothing but just a hunch, Zealous was convinced that he was right. Now that I take a good look at the hallway, I don't find any leftovers from the multi-legged drones that we had destroyed. Those drones were also equipped with laser cannons, just like these girls. Is it just a coincidence? Or did these girls get their laser cannons from eating those drones? If it is the latter, it would mean that these girls are of a monster type that would devour and assimilate anything they can consume. In that case, they can increase their numbers by consuming materials. No wonder they just keep coming. They're eating their dead friends to produce copies. Fortunately, Zealous knew how to deal with these kinds of monsters. He simply had to completely obliterate them until they had no energy or material left to reconstruct themselves. This is an order to everyone. Start the counterattack. The green liquid is probably an extremely powerful medicine. There's a good chance that they'll be able to heal themselves unless you completely destroy them. With that signal from Zealous, his team started to ramp up their counterattack. Faced with an intense assault that completely destroyed every single part of the monster's body, the girl's attacks started to weaken. Zealous used that chance to quicken the retreat of his team back to cargo sector A7. Haruka, who was commanding the biological weapons, seemed solemn as she saw the changes in Zealous' team. That was fast. Is it normal for them to be able to adapt this quickly? Well, it is basically the same thing that had happened in Kagomayama City, so I guess that's why they know how to deal with it. Haruka shook off her worries for now and decided to focus on controlling the biological weapons. But something else caught her attention that made her knit her eyebrows. Your business here is already done, right? So why are you coming back? In her enhanced vision, Haruka could see Akira walking on the rooftop of the transport vehicle. Akira was in the middle of looking at a door on the rooftop when he suddenly stopped. Not too far ahead of him, a certain part of the rooftop was slowly opening. Shiro, is that it? No, that's not me. Suddenly Haruka jumped out of that opening. The moment she landed on the rooftop, she stood face to face with Akira. The smile that had adorned her face when he was with her while they were inside the transport vehicle was nowhere to be seen. What are you doing here? You have no business anymore here, right? True, but it seems that's not the case for Shiro. Shiro's voice immediately came out from Akira's information terminal. Haruka, just listen to what I have to say. Why can't you come with me? If you're worried about what will happen after you run away, it'll be fine. I have a hideout that even Sakashita Heavy Industry cannot find. I've also prepared negotiation materials so that the corporate government won't arrest you even if you're someone from the Rebuild Research Laboratory. So please. But Haruka ignored Shiro's plea. She bit her lips, eyes full of pain as she looked straight at Akira. Leave. I have no wish to fight you, but if you get in my way, then I will have no other choice. Well, I can say the same for me as well. So, can we at least talk? No, leave. I don't want to hurt Shiro's friend. But if you give me no choice, I will use force. Haruka's presence started to show readiness to fight. She was no longer trying to pretend to be weak. Just to let you know, I'm pretty strong. Although it was nothing but a bluff, her words sounded as if she had enough power to force even Akira to get serious. Shiro, what's next? Should I just leave? Or fight? If it's the latter, I have no guarantee that she will come out alive, you know? Shiro could not help to raise his voice after hearing that depending on the situation, Akira would go ahead and kill Haruka. Akira, you dash. Shiro, the opponent is someone who came here to steal the cube. Just so you know, I'm not that strong to be worried about not killing her. I will try, but I give you no promises. I know that I'm working for you right now, but I have no obligation to go that far for you. So, which one is it? Shiro could not find any words to rebuke Akira. That was when Haruka intervened. Then just leave. I don't know how much Shiro is paying you, but if it's money, you can just give it back. I can guarantee you, fighting me is not worth the trouble. Unfortunately, I can't just do that. A job is a job. It won't erase my responsibility just because I return the sum. Well, that might erase my obligation to Shiro tied to the reward, but that doesn't help resolve my other debts to him. Debts that are not tied to money. I'm planning to properly repay all my debts to Shiro. Haruka was taught that under the corporate government, everything that was done through money could be undone also through money. So, she was surprised to hear Akira respond in such a manner. You're a rather righteous person. I'm just doing my best. Shiro, what's your answer? Just to warn you, if the transport vehicle gets too far away from the camping vehicle, I will head back. My stuff is over there after all. The transport vehicle was going too fast for the camping vehicle to keep up. It was already speeding away from where Shiro was. Even so, Shiro could not decide to tell Akira whether he should fight or leave. The one who broke the stalemate was Haruka. Shiro, can you hear me? Why yeah. Let me tell you one thing. You might think that I've escaped that place, but that is not correct. I still have not escaped that place. What do you mean? I can't tell you more. But as long as you don't know why, you won't be able to rescue me. So please, just leave. Haruka seemed honestly happy and sad at the same time as she threw a smile at Shiro through Akira's information terminal. I'm really happy that you have gone this far for me. It's already good enough. So please, just leave. A sad silence pervaded. It was Shiro who finally broke that silence. Akira, return back. All right. Akira walked to one end of the rooftop. He then turned around and looked at Haruka. She was only standing there as if struck by helplessness. Akira let out a sigh and jumped off the transport vehicle. Haruka then headed back inside the transport vehicle. All the emotions she felt were left here. It was taken by the wind created by the speeding transport vehicle and carried away. After Akira landed on the ground, he waited for Shiro to pick him up. Even before Shiro came, he could no longer see the transport vehicle. Akira jumped on board the camping vehicle and went to check up on Shiro, but contrary to his expectation, Shiro was doing okay. Akira, I've opened all the cases. Okay, thanks. So then, what's your plan after this? Just as I planned, we will still go and rescue Haruka. Our target is the Rebuild Research Laboratory. This is where things get serious, so let's get ready. The camping vehicle accelerated even faster under Shiro's remote control. Say, Shiro, didn't Haruka say something along the lines of it being impossible for you? She didn't say anything like that. What she said is that she still has not escaped from the Rebuild Research Laboratory. Well, I still have not fully understood the meaning of her words there. Akira, what do you think she meant by that? Something like that body of hers being a remote terminal that she's controlling from the laboratory. No, that one is not a remote terminal. That is the real Haruka. There is no doubt about that. I can guarantee you that. It's normal practice to prepare a body double when an important person goes on site. So, I'm experienced in both faking myself and seeing through fake bodies. That's why I can tell. That was the real Haruka. Then what did she mean by that? I don't know. But, if she's still under the control of the laboratory for any reason, then I will go and rescue her. We might be able to find the reason if we go to the laboratory. It's worth checking. It still sounds like we're just going with the flow. Shiro heard that and made a rather smug smile before speaking. At least not as bad as you thought. You have a point. Akira could not do anything but chuckle in reaction to that. So then, how long will it take before we reach that laboratory? It's about 5 hours from here. Alpha, is that enough time for you to familiarize yourself with the new equipment? Yep. I see. Although this rebuild laboratory sounds like some super facility, I have my frontline equipment with me this time, so I guess it should be fine. I'm really counting on you for this. It is a secret laboratory, so it might look like it's undefended from outside, but it should at least be as secure as a Sakashita heavy industry facility. A secret lab, huh? Yeah. It wasn't easy to find it, you know? I've been trying to find it even using the information that I got from Viola, but that turned out to be useless, so it was really not easy. The camping vehicle continued running through the wasteland and into the Rebuild Research Laboratory that even Shiro had a hard time finding. Back in Cheryl's base, Cheryl was fearfully receiving a visitor. I heard that you have some business with Viola? May I ask what it might be? It's nothing serious, I just have a few questions for Viola-san regarding some of her past dealings. It would be great if you would cooperate. The guest was Inabe, as an officer from Kagomayama City, already told Cheryl beforehand that Murwal was someone from the corporate government and warned her not to do anything rude to him. That was why she was so nervous. So then where is Viola-san? She'll be here in a minute. So please wait for a bit. Although she had Akira's support and her gang had become a rather untouchable organization in Kagomayama City, they were still nothing compared to the corporate government. Thus, it was not strange for everyone in the gang to be nervous with the current guest around. A moment later, Cheryl's men came in with Viola. Viola sat in front of Marwa as she was trying her best to keep her usual smile. I heard that you have some questions for me, so what might it be? I want to know in detail about your deal with someone by the name of Goru in Mihazono Ruin. We have investigated and it seems like you gave him a certain piece of information. What did you give him? I see, so you want to buy that information? In that case. In order to get into her usual rhythm, Viola tried to start negotiations in her usual fashion. But Marwa stopped her. I will give you the gratitude amount, but let's negotiate a later date. I want to know that answer first and foremost. I know you like to complicate the discussion. So, let me state this. I can actually just ask your brain directly, but that will require certain preparations first. So, to not have to go through such a troublesome thing, it would be of great help if you can just tell me honestly. Would that work for you? In front of Marwa, who said that with nonchalance and a peaceful smile, Viola got overwhelmed by the pressure and told Marwa everything. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.